you just said before that, you know, you would have worked with the players that were there. Would you have gone back to FaZe if NiKo was still there?
I think that would been a talk with me and NiKo. I would not exclude it. People think me and NiKo is not friends or whatever, but we're actually really good friends. And how the whole thing has been viewed is basically everybody has trashing NiKo with the time is his face after the whole situation with me. So that's always when people try to like, it's NiKo versus karrigan, but we're actually really good friends and we talk sometimes. So if he would have been there giving me the offer, I think there would have been a like 1 hour talk between me and NiKo to put some boundaries and put a talk or put the past behind us if that was the situation.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Counter-Strike fans around the world, welcome to HLTV Confirmed Season 5, Episode 29. We're brought to you by Xtrafy. Got that one in nice and early this time. Round xtrfy.com. Check them out for all your peripheral needs. Also, if you're going to be following the show on the audio options for Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, the rest of them there, head over to anchor.fm/HLTV. You can find all that. And for those of you tuning on in, let's just quickly give you a look in as to what is on tonight's show. IEM Katowice roundup. We got the CIS Revolution that's happening, the mid-season roster mania. Lots has happened in the last week. And we got karrigan in the hot seat. Before we do that, let's introduce the regulars. Lucas, how's the weather in the production room?
I don't know. I'm just trying to keep it all together.
So not great, as usual. So luckily, Lucas is here, I suppose. Striker, do you believe in aliens of any variety, you know, ones that may or may not ever visit us? Do you believe her?
I'm open to the idea.
Okay. I hope that there's somebody out there keeping track of all the random questions I ask you every week and is just building like a profile of you and just working out like all the things that you dislike and like. All right, Prof. If you could change your alias now, right, in hindsight, what would you change it to if you would change it at all?
I know this.
Anal Destroyer 69.
Okay. All right. Is that the final answer? You're locking that in?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Probably wouldn't be using that one in any pro matches, I assume. All right. And
demonetization on YouTube, man.
Yeah, that might drop off immediately. I've been doing a very good job of holding back my my tirades of swear words lately. So thank you, Prof. And karrigan, we've got you here. Normally I wait till we roll this bumper, but the people need to know the lamp. Tell us about it.
I think it's free. I don't have it anymore.
Okay,
you know?
Well, so. it's roaming the world.
Yeah, it's wandering around the world. Been locked down for a long time, you know. So it's walking its own road now.
If you love something, let it free, right? And then if it's true, it will come back. I'm
known to give freedom, so I had also to give freedom to the lamp, right?
Yeah, it's gonna see the light right now. Lucas, run the bumper. Let's get stuck into this. All right. Now we're going to get stuck straight into this, Finn. I hope this is fine by you. I'm going to throw the biggest question, the one that everybody wants to know off the bat, the decision to leave mousesports. What happened, mate? Talk us through it.
Oh, it's a long story, but
we got plenty of time.
I mean, obviously there has been some issues in mousesports, the whole lineup. I would say since COVID-19 started, there was a lot of issues with the woxic situation. We had to bench him when it came to the summer after we flopped another tournament doing Cologne, right? So it was a very unstable period of time back then. And when we then lost woxic, we also lost rejoined, obviously. So I felt like I was put in a situation where I had to handle everything myself, and India was very tough for me. I felt honestly really burned out. I've never been before like that. That's also why I had to do a vacation during the COVID-19, even though I didn't want to. I just had to get away and think about my future, right? My contract was running out. So yeah, we got some good players. Obviously, boomuz was a really good player, but that was not the player we needed at that moment. We needed an AWPer. I was doing the AWP. I was trying to work on that. Didn't work out. J tried it. I think we made some decent results, which you look at the paper and the situation we were without a coach and everything. I did everything I could, 120 hours, past 2 weeks for like 2 months just to make it work, because I didn't want to drop out of top 10 and become another just like, it doesn't work with karrigan, you know, like this famous room I have that only works in the beginning, but I felt it was different in mousesports. It didn't work in the beginning and it actually worked in the end. So that was actually really disappointing for me. Coming to January, it was really a tough decision if I want to stay with mouz or not. But also mouz is an organization who's gonna go out and buy the players if I need one player that's pretty expensive to reach #1 in the world, right? mouz is known to get younger players and try to get them to perform on a high level, right? And obviously ropz is a wonderful story of how that worked out, become the best player in the world, in my opinion, as a rifler. So yeah, I had to believe if I could do it one more time with a new lineup, and how the situation was given, I felt I had to try something else. There was obviously only 2 options for me. I had some other offers, but they didn't sound as interesting as this was with either mousesports or FaZe. So in the end, I chose experience over young players, and you can talk about all day, right? Like, I potentially don't know how it's gonna look around in mouz in 1 year if I can reach the goals with the young guys. And then there's coming back to FaZe, an organization I trust and I've been worked, and I enjoyed my time there back then with the organization, people around the organization. And it's not the same team anymore. And also I felt those players in the lineup, they needed a big voice to come back to the top, right? And I think knowing that they were so hungry for an in-game leader made my choice easier than it would be just me replacing another in-game leader, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was a tough decision for a month. Took me back and forth. In the end, it was not about the money. It's not about it brand itself. It's all about where I could achieve my goals for my career, right? And I felt what I achieved in FaZe before would be hard to reach in mousesports if it didn't work out with the lineup we had in the beginning of the year. So overall, it was not an easy decision because you go from players that trust you a lot. You know, like everything I said in mousesports, everybody was agreeing and there was no discussion. And how I wanted the team to play, they all listened to me and do it. But sometimes you also miss this where players is gonna preview. You know, like I was a mentor to the whole team, but sometimes an in-game lead also needs someone to battle him in a nice way. That means, hey, we need to figure this out. We need to do this differently, right? We had a coach doing that, but I feel like having 1-2 voices is not enough in a team. I think 3 voices is always the best way, because you're gonna have disagreements and agreements, and everybody has their own view of the game, and you mix together all those views. I think that's the way we become the best team in the world, and not just only 2 guys running the whole show, if that makes sense.
Sure. There's obviously a lot to unpack with this one right here, but if we're going to put it in as few words as possible here, basically what I'm getting from what you're saying here is you think you're going to achieve more with FaZe in the short term. Is that it?
Not in short term. Like, the problem for me was long term as well, right? Is these players gonna perform as good as on LAN as they did? We have obviously boomuz as a new guy. We don't have much experience in that mousesports lineup. Getting AWPer, we also lost experience with J, right? AWPer doesn't have tons of experience, so the next guy in the team would be ropz at the age of 21, having the second most experience in the lineup. And that's where there was some questions with me. If you come to a major final, I need to rely on the experience and not people who has never been there before. Because I obviously one major is a big factor in my career. I want to win, But it's not only about that, but just big tournaments. It took time with mousesports. In the beginning, we made the semifinals, we made the quarterfinals, but I felt we lost because of the experience and the calmness. And that took time for me to work on that, work on mistakes every tournament. And it took us 9 months to peak with mousesports. And I believe if this is the scenario, I will peak earlier with FaZe, and I think there's a bigger chance to stay there. Because if you've been on the top before, you know how hard it is to stay at the top. If you're a new guy, if you reach the top, you don't understand how hard it is to stay there. You just think everything is flying, you're just playing with confidence, but when you lose 1, 2, 3 matches, that confidence goes away. And I think with players who've been at the top before, mixed with young players, like that mixture we have now in FaZe, for example, you get that a bigger balance between the confidence and the experience. And that's what I had to think through how that would look, and that's why I chose FaZe in the end. But like I said, there has so many outcomes, you cannot predict what's gonna happen. Are we gonna come back to LAN, or are we still gonna play online for a year, right? That was obviously also in my thinking of the future.
Okay. Now I'm sure there's a lot of questions here that Striker and Prof have to ask. Striker, we'll start with you. What's the first thing you got here for karrigan after that?
I mean, I'm just remember from the last time you were on the show, you were talking about, we posed this question, how would you fix FaZe? And this was, I think, at the time where it started to be rumored that you were going to join or something like that. And so since then, a couple of things have changed. I mean, especially Twistzz, coming in. So do you feel like the roles are just pretty much set as you would, as you wanted them to be? Or how do you view the players that you have available and how they fit into every role?
I don't think they're actually set in stone in that particular. I think you have 2 roles set, right? coldzera as the hardcore lurk, as a secondary caller. I think that's an obvious choice. You have broky as the main orber. But what I'm trying to experiment with now is putting Rain outside his comfort zone, not only hardcore entry fragging, but also give Twistzz the freedom to be an entry fragger in some rounds, right? That means in mousesports, I was a very aggressive rifler. So now I have to find my balance in this FaZe clan where I can take decision and when I can be aggressive, because I also need to give those guys the freedom to be aggressive. So that's something I have to balance out to figure out exactly when I'm gonna use Twistzz as an entry fragger and when I'm gonna use Rain as an entry fragger. So that's something. With the time we don't have any lands coming up, I think this is the time where we can experiment with, or where's the weakness in having Rain as a secondary lurk, or what is the weakness in having Twistzz as a secondary lurk. Because we all know what Rain were before he became an entry fragger. He was a really good lurker as well. So trying to put him outside of comfort zone, because he's been entry fragging for 3 years, everything the same, but now he has now he goes to the second guy, obviously. But putting him in more to a lurk role, I think that could be good for him. Also get back that old Rain confidence, and I think with the players we are very versatile in me, Twistzz, and Rain. We can all lurk, we can all play aggressive, we all understand when to refrag, when not to refrag. And I think that can be really good if you can find the balance of where everybody has the different maps where they do really good. So they're not completely set in stone, but I have my vision of the team, and then it will take time for me at least.
Well, we lost Prof, so we won't bounce him to a question. Keep going, Striker.
Does that make things? Do you think that makes things easier or harder than the last time that you were in FaZe, where you maybe were a lot of the time you were kind of like the first guy in, kind of baiting for the other people behind you, like a Rain, So does this like versatility from the other players make it easier for you?
I think it leaves more options, so to say. If it's easier, I mean, it's always easy to have like a vision of like this, how we're gonna play C to side, T side, everybody's perfect role. But what I actually experienced in mouz was having like thing outside the box, putting somebody in a role where they can learn something from that role and then switch to your backup plan. So what I always do when I have a role, like that's exactly what happened in mouz. We were not doing good for 3 months. We were stuck at top 10. And then I decided to remove Frozen from the entry fragger and put him into an aggressive lurk where he had more freedom. And suddenly we started having results, 5 tournaments, 4 finals, I think it was, or 4 tournament wins. So that's something I'm trying to implement again this time, that I said to the guys, this is like how we're going to play the next 2-3 months. These kind of roles, I'm going to note down when I feel like people are not doing good enough, going to help them improve. And if the results doesn't come, we have a backup plan how to switch around on the CT and T side. And I think that's the best way you learn people to play better CS, is putting them in a comfort zone. They have outside the comfort zone to learn something different about the game. so that they can implement in their old role. If I move them back to that, and I think that's how players improve. It's not like Rain doesn't know how to interfrag anymore, but if you put him in another situation, he might bring some of that he learned from that period of time into his old role. If I make Rain to the secondary entry constantly.
All right, welcome back, Prof. We'll get to you up now if you got a question for us. You still with us?
Yeah. Am I good?
Yeah,
good?
we can hear.
I'm good. Great. Like something that a lot of people have been, like fans have been talking about, like with your return to FaZe, they see it as like a like maybe like a last chance, let's say, to win that major that never happened. So is that something that also influenced your return to FaZe, or the change of a roster in some way, like your age at the moment and how long you still want to be playing CS, and the potential of these players to maybe in the short term be better, even though you said that that's not the primary reason for moving to FaZe?
I don't think, as my time in FaZe now with the contract links, the links, and everything I haven't faced, that this is my last chance to win a major. I believe if you keep working hard, you keep sacrificing everything else, but CS, you have a family supporting you, you have your teammates trusting you, I believe you can always achieve great things, right? But one thing is sure, if I believe I cannot be the best in-game leader or best team in the world, I will probably stop at some point, right? But I feel like what I've shown lately in especially Summit, I also have improved individually. Besides, obviously, IEM Katowice, that was like chaotic with 3 days practice. But I felt like I got better individually in mouz than I was in FaZe at some point. That comes down to sacrifice, or it comes down to me observing how all these young players play CS, because they play a specific style. The mechanics they work, I always ask them, how are you training? How are you improving your aim like that? So I tried to learn from the young guys, and just an example, I've never even trained spray transfer. I saw Boomers 5 packs in. He's like one of the best spray transfers in the world. So I tried to implement that in my game, right? So I believe if you're always open to learn from someone else, I think you can always improve. And as long as I have that mentality, I believe I can improve every day, even though I played the games for many years now. So I don't believe this is my last chance to win a major, because I don't want to put that on my head. And if I don't get the major before I stop, that's just part of it. But if I've achieved big things, besides not winning a major, that also adds to the legacy I want to build as an in-game leader.
Okay.
How much of a say did you have in terms of the Twistzz edition? I know you basically came in after, and like the final decision only came in after, but I imagine you must have had some talks, at least with the team, around what the plan is, what kind of a player they're getting, and from the other side as well, Twistzz, I imagine also was kind of like wondering about like what kind of an in-game leader they're getting and stuff like that. So how did that progress really?
Obviously, I got asked what I think, and obviously I think Twistzz is a really good player. But I also wanted to make sure to the team that I cannot take a decision because I haven't looked at the players. I haven't worked with the players. I haven't seen how to improve. I haven't seen the mentality within the game. And I believe still Kjaerbye is a great player, but he was not in the right roles when NiKo was there. Again, it was a scenario with Boomers. Kjaerbye didn't fit what they needed. So for me to bench a player without me coming in, I didn't want to have a big say in that. But obviously, I said Twistzz is a great player. But I don't know much about him, right? So when they told me about it, I started looking demos through. I started to figure out what kind of player he is. I looked at his interviews, how his mentality is about the game, and I told them that this is a guy I could see myself work with. And I obviously had a talk with Twistzz as well. He would love to work with me. So I think that was a perfect fit as well. But like I said, I didn't want to do a final decision saying a guy should be out before you even get a chance to work. I told FaZe from the beginning that if they give me the option to work with the team, we all know where we want to be in 1 year. And if we're not there in 1 year, we have to see what we can do to achieve those results, right? Because everybody on the lineup here, if you look at the lineup, it's not like first time I joined FaZe where it was a car wreck, like I had all different pieces. I didn't know they didn't work together. Nothing worked, right? Here we have a core that I feel like have worked in the different roles, but I just need to figure out how to fine tune and bring the best out of everyone, right? So I believe the team we have now can win majors, can become the best team in the world. It's just up to ourselves to help each other to become that number one.
I got a couple of questions here that you don't have to answer, but I'm going to try anyway. We'll see how we go. Did you try and take ropz with you?
I think it's impossible to get ropz, right?
Okay.
He's he's a very unique player. Obviously, I think that is my dream player in ropz in that scenario. So I think that's the best way to say it. That my dream would be to play with ropz, and I would also say he was one of the big part of why it was hard to leave mouz. I have really good working relationship with ropz. We really evolved together. We really respect it a lot because we really work hard both. You know, when you look at each other and you see both people working really hard, you kind of work even harder. You know, you wanna try to impress the guy next to you who's working really hard as well. So yeah, I think that's the best way to answer that. This is by far the most complete player I've played in. As of working around the game, understanding the game, wants to improve constantly. And that was something that was very unique compared to the other players I played with, right? I mean, Device is also a very special guy when it comes to that. But if you look toward the old phase, ropz was really the guy I needed to kind of get the motivation back and having that trust and yeah. So that's the best way to answer it.
All right, and this one's on the opposite side of that. You just said before that you would have worked with the players that were there. Would you have gone back to FaZe if NiKo was still there?
I think that would been a talk with me and NiKo. I would not exclude it. People think me and NiKo is not friends or whatever, but we're actually really good friends. And how the whole thing has been viewed is basically everybody has trashing NiKo. With the time is his face after the whole situation with me. So that's always when people try to like, it's NiKo versus karrigan, but we're actually really good friends and we talk sometimes. So if he would have been there giving me the offer, I think there would have been a like 1 hour talk between me and NiKo to put some boundaries and put a talk or put the past behind us if that was the situation. Because NiKo is a great guy to work with as well. He's very different compared to what I had in mouz, so I also had to put myself in the mentality: could I work with what I had last time, and would it be different or would it be the same? Because if it would be the same, I'll probably not join FaZe.
Right. Boys, do we have anything else we want to ask with these early ones, or do we want to keep it moving and we'll save some for later down the line?
Maybe just ask about Kjaerbye. Like, what's his situation? Is there like any option in which he stays on the team, like 6th man? Did you explore something like that, or is he already like out of the team 100%?
For now, we are working on the 5-man lineup. What the future holds for Kjaerbye is hard for me to say. I don't know exactly what the plan is, but for now, we're focused on a 5-man lineup. I don't see 6-man lineup right now working for us because it's a lot of stuff we're going through right now, right? Maybe it's something we're going to look at in 6 months, whatever, but I want to give everybody the full confidence that they have time to improve and we have time to get the results. Because there's a lot of stuff I have to go through with the new lineup.
Sure. All right. Let's take a look here. Obviously, Katowice, you mentioned it just before. You guys didn't have much practice whatsoever. In terms of the results that you had with the limited practice, were you relatively happy with how it went?
I would say so, right? It's not fun to play liquid when the team just beat them 2 times, right? There's some different pressure. They changed in-game leader. 3 days practice, going through 6 maps. I think we played Mirage 3 times, and that's why we picked it 2 times in the tournament. So what I liked the most, I also told the guys, was like we went through in a different way after we lost against Liquid. We went through it for like 2 hours, the demo, and we kind of improved. And I told them what we need to improve of ASAP. That means we need to fix that tonight for tomorrow. Because if we do that, we have a big chance of winning against OG. And that was like focusing on the CT rotations. Because what I realized is this lineup is they don't move around the map a lot. You know, like a CT, this is like, okay, we're gonna stay here and we hope for the best. Like they try to play a lot of individual skill. So I told them exactly how we need to improve and how we do it. And in the practice, I focused on that before the tournament, before the maps against OG. And when we played OG, we moved around really good. We read the game, we push, we bait into setups. We don't just play individually. So by doing that, I always feel like, okay, we're already learning stuff, like within 24 hours, how to improve as a team. But doing that on different maps and getting used to it, it's really tough with only limited practice, right? So with that, I feel happy that we beat OG in the way we did. It was convincing, and it was not only because people were shooting heads, but actually because we moved around as a team really good. So that I was really happy about. And then the next day, I think we lost. And yeah, that's just part of it. Like, we did our best with 3 days practice, and if you want to think short term, you're gonna say coldzera should have called, right? Because they're used to the way he's calling. But I just wanted to think long term here and get ready for Pro League, and just get thrown into it and just get it over with the first debut, or what you want to say, right?
Sure. Boys, you got anything around Katowice? There's not too much to dig into here.
Yeah,
Not
I
really.
mean, no, not really.
All right, we'll keep it ticking along. We're gonna have a lot of questions for later in the show, I'm sure, when we get to playtime. Having a look here, obviously, you mentioned the roster right now and how you think you could win majors with this team, right? That is what you said. I'm not making that up. I'm pretty sure. Okay, cool.
It could be the best team in the world. That's what I said.
All right, there you go. So comparing that back to the 2018 version of FaZe, right? How are you weighing options up here? Do you think you're going to have a lot more room to grow with this one? Do you think that it's going to be a better team overall? Obviously, the game is in a different state as it was 2018 to 2021, but like comparing the two, do you think this one's going to be better?
I think it's hard to compare because the team we had was full of experience. I would say, yeah, there was a young guy. NiKo was young, but the rest was like people have been playing a long time on the highest level, right? Guardian, Olof, Rain, me, and NiKo was like our young player in that fashion, but he had a lot of experience in mouz already, right? So I felt that is a very different lineup compared to now. Because with broky and Twistzz, you have 2 young guys who is, I would say, Twistzz has obviously a lot of experience the past 2-3 years, but it's not like he has been in the top for like many years. You know, he still have a lot of room to grow. The same with broky, and I feel having 2 guys who I feel can grow a lot, it makes it potential higher ceiling for the team than what we had in the past. But what we had in the past was obviously insane results. So for those, like, I think it was 6-8 months, we were like in 10 finals and won 5 of them or something like that. We had like really good run onto the Boston major, and then we had the Olof situation, and everything from there on it went to shit basically, right? So it's hard to say if we can live up to that potential. I like to believe so, that we can become the best team in the world and stay there. But I think it's too early to say if we can reach that level. If you ask me while we're top 1, I can tell you how people are exactly working and how we're improving, because we were not improving in FaZe. That's the most important thing. We didn't improve as a team we got pretty stellar on how to fix mistakes, how to move around the map. And that's something I brought over, like, okay, I cannot let go of that with the team. I need to keep pushing them to improve. Even if we win games, we have to go through. And why do we lose those rounds? And why do we win rounds? Okay, try to improve that a lot more on how we win rounds. And that's something we didn't do in previous FaZe. And that's something I focus a lot in mousesports. And I'm going to do that with the new lineup as well, so we can keep improving.
Right.
So that's one of the things I learned from the FaZe mouz situation.
What's your view of broky as an AWPer at this point? I feel like he's quite unique compared to everything else that you've had available in the past. So what's your view on his position and how he approaches the gun, essentially?
I think it has been tough to kind of view him yet, because the way he's pretty new AWPer, right? He wasn't set to be an AWPer when he joined FaZe. So he has only really worked with one in-game leader in NiKo as an AWPer, and I think I'm a lot more forgiving and giving more freedom to the AWPer, in that sense that I want to build around him if he wants to take the initiative. If he feels in the game, I'll give it to him. And I told him, I had a talk with him during one of the nights, that I just told him, just do whatever you want, like from the beginning, because I want you to play how you want, for like few months, and I will slowly try to improve where I feel like, okay, here we can have something to improve on with you as a player. Okay, I need to put you out of your comfort zone now to try to improve more in your gameplay, so you're not just doing everything the same, right? And that's the same I did with woxic, because I need to know the mentality of the AWPer. I need to know what he likes to do and why he's doing it. I need to understand why he wants to peek and does this re-peek or whatever he wants to, why he's jumping away, and why he's wasting utility and stuff like that, so I can help him improve instead of just telling him exactly how he needs to play from day one. So I rather want to do that, and I want him to do mistakes so I can help him improve on those mistakes himself, right? Instead of telling me how to play CS. So I think he has a lot in the whole package of him. He can be passive. What we need to do is obviously put him more aggressive. That's something always, like, first thing I have on my topic with him is like put in more aggressive position to see how he actually reacts towards that, right? So I think he really liked that I'm always telling him he just do whatever he wants, even if you over peak, I'll protect you, as long as it's where you can't really justify why you're re-peaking or why you're moving around the map like that. So that's my main focus with him, and he has insane movement as well. Young player, mechanical guy. He's all the time to listening, noting down. He's coming on the server at 1 a.m. when I'm still there doing stuff, and that means just to me he shows he wants to improve. And by doing that, I always have a lot of confidence in him as an AWPer.
All right.
Talking about talking about the style of the team that you want to employ now. Like if we go back to the 2018, like FaZe, very explosive style, a lot of like strong players. So you just like put them in the position to frag and chill with that. And mousesports was kind of, there's a similar like karrigan style to it. What do you expect from this FaZe lineup? Should we be expecting like a different approach to the game, or is it going to be like that kind of a style that we're kind of used to from karrigan's teams?
I mean, what I've been forced on mouz was that I realized that some of the players didn't know how to react in certain situations. When we got in a 3-on-3, or let's say we got down a nuke on secret, everything felt random. People were not good enough to take initiative. And I think you are good at taking initiative if you have a good game. But if you have a bad game, you have like 1-7 in frags, you're not gonna all the time take the initiative. But one thing I had to implement in mouz, and that's something I implement in FaZe already, and everybody likes it, that we have specific agreements when we come in scenarios where it's 4-on-4, X and X situation, how we're gonna do exactly this if you want to in secret on nuke, or if you go outdoor on nuke, how do we want to proceed doing that? So it doesn't feel random and it's all based on only initiative. In the old FaZe, everybody was good at taking initiative. There was a lot of experience in the lineup, how to adapt. olofmeister, like everybody has said, he was the glue of those X and X situations. He was so good at decision making, coming on ideas, how to not die or how to run for his teammates. So by not having a guy like olofmeister, I feel like we need to have these agreements set in place. So coming back to the question of that scenario is like, you still have the freedom to roll you want, but we need certain agreements when we get into X and X situation, how we're going to react as a team. And yeah, that's a big difference. Like I said, how I work with the team now is going through mistakes each day after practice. How do we improve this 4-on-4 situation? How do we lose it from the practice we have, right? And I think by doing that, you make everybody be on the same page. And that's the most important thing in teams nowadays, is that everybody knows how to react in a specific situation. So yeah, you're going to see explosive style. You're going to see where we get the players into good situation with good decision making. So a mixture of that, right? And also I've been focused more on structure as a team whole. So yeah, a mix of everything, so we can play specific styles depending on the enemies.
All right. I had a follow-up I wanted to ask. You mentioned this early when you were talking about the whole woxic being benched situation. This one here is obviously less related to just you personally, but more on your take on this. woxic, when he got benched from the cloud, or let go from Cloud9 even, did that come as a surprise to you?
Oh, yes. Everything with Cloud9 came as a surprise, right? You're building a team. Your coach and your in-game leader has been talking for a few months. They choose the players they want to come to the team. And then 2 months later, you throw out the coach and you throw out your star AWPer. Like, where did this go wrong, right? The coach and the in-game leader didn't agree on how to play CS. That was like one of the things. So how did that even happen? That's my first thing, right? And then if Alex's in-game leader had sjuush and you pick woxic, you're not gonna make woxic to sjuush. That's I consider that's impossible, right? You have to get him the freedom, and you have to try slowly improve him on the mistakes he does, because every player has some flaws, right? And we know woxic was really aggressive AWPer. If he's in the zone, he's gonna destroy everybody's T side tactics, but he's also gonna cut some rounds if he doesn't hit those shots, right? And I could see the way woxic played when we played them. And that was not the woxic I knew. Like, he was like supporting. And that's a huge element you have to work on. Supporting as an AWPer, you need to understand exactly, you need to know a lot of grenades, you need to know when to throw them and when to help and when to hold it up, and instead of doing aggressive peaks. So that came as a surprise to me, because I expected them to give woxic the freedom, how he showed he was a mousesports, because he played really good on LAN in mouz, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, obviously this whole online situation you're talking about with your boys too.
Yeah.
Now we want to just quickly look at 2021 and the outlook for the team. Now, we heard from Janko that some of the things over there at FaZe during his time, it was difficult to push things through, right? So with you going to FaZe now, it's RobbaN's back as the coach, right? You've got is there anything there in terms of a psychologist to help out the team? Because I know that was something that they wanted to get in the past, but were unable to. Is the organization more hands-on when you were there last time? Are they more hands-on when you're here this time? Does it feel like there's more attention now? What's the go with all that stuff?
I feel like we have more resources allocated to the CSGO team than we had before. And that's also one part of the things when I signed with FaZe is that we need to get those things I have on my list, right? As I'm not coming, I want a team around the team. That means sports psychologists. It's not like we're gonna have one tomorrow. We're gonna figure out who we're gonna get, who fits the team. It's another easy and short process. It's something you're gonna figure out because you cannot take one random guy. You have to figure out and talk with the guy, right? And kind of have the vision how he can improve on the team. So that's something I want done here in spring. When it's gonna be done is hard to say. And then also getting analysts for the first time in FaZe. I did everything myself back then, and now there's a coach to help as well. But you want again a three guys team analyzing the games, helping out each other, giving different views on how we can attack the enemies. So that's something I'm lining up that we need to be done here in spring. So I can focus on myself and the team instead of focusing on three different things: preparing for games, heavy preparing for games, individually playing, and making game plan and tactics for the team, right? So there's a more set role what I need the coach to do and what I need the analyst to do for the future.
Okay.
So yeah, we need a team around the CSGO team itself, and that was one of my key things for me to sign.
All right. Then there's a lot of people in chat who are asking if you guys can do a boot camp. So I know it's difficult right now with COVID, but is that something that you guys have planned?
We're trying to, but again, we are from the 6 different countries. It's not the easiest thing to do. So we're trying our best. Everybody wants to boot camp in the team because that's where I build the synergy, right? Right now, we have never met each other as a team with me and Russell. So the whole team dynamic is different, right? You don't know if you are hanging out with one guy or you're not having so great chemistry with a guy, right? But obviously, the situation does it's literally impossible, but we're trying our best to do one for the near future. I think that's where you improve the most as a team.
Right. Nice. And in terms of goals, right? You said before that the roles that you have the players in now, you're going to kind of keep everybody more flexible so they can learn different roles and keep it so it's a bit more open ended. But in terms of goals for what you want to achieve with FaZe, how long have you planned down the track? Have you guys sat down as a team and set yourself a goal for 2021?
No, not yet, but that's something we do very shortly. But obviously, my goal is that we are ready for the major in November. And I think everything before that is just part of the learning curve, right? I don't want us to peak next tournament and like suddenly we're number 1 in the world or whatever. You know what I mean? I want this curve I had with mousesports. It made me feel like you keep improving, because you're gonna have ups and downs, right? But if you still just all the time have this like slowly line climbing to be the best team in the world, I think that's where you learn the most. And once you're grinding slowly and get there, you appreciate it more for those like 6 months you tried everything you could to become the number 1, right? So for me, it's just about being ready for the major, and that means obviously I want the top 4 at the major at least. That's where I want to see us in 6 months. When we talk a year, obviously that's where we need to be number 1 specific weeks, or how many weeks we have been number 1 within a year, right? That's how I obviously work with teams. 0 to like, I have a specific way to do it. I always work from first month to 3 months. I try to figure out everyone in the team, try to talk, get the mentality of the players, what roles. 3 to 9 months, I work on we need to win at least 1 tournament in that period of time, or 2, depends on how it goes. And from 9 to 12 day, where you need to peak as a team. That's how I want to work, and that's how I see it. Obviously, you can go differently, but that's, like I said, that's a curve, keep going up as a team.
Okay.
And that's the main thing for me, that you improve every day.
Sweet. All right, boys, before we move on to the recent news, we got anything else for karrigan?
I think I just wanted to ask about Twistzz coming to the team and playing with him as a player. Obviously, you put him in some of these like star roles, NiKo roles, as they call them, coming from NA. different style of play, maybe to some degree, different communication, maybe. Like, what has it been playing with him? Did he surprise you in any way?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, his communication is really good. When I played NA, what I realized was when I played NA, the communication wasn't really the best thing. So playing with him, obviously his communication is really on point, initiative taking, and he has so crisp aim as well. He's a really happy guy. And I think that's what the team needed as well. Like when I look at the players, when I play with them now, I can see Russell is actually doing a difference for the team in the mood wise. He's really down to earth as well. When you think about what he have achieved already as a player, he's very humble. And I think with that, me and him has a really good relationship when it comes to working. He enjoy a lot of the new stuff I'm bringing to the team and saying, well, that's insane, those grenades, stuff like that, you know? So I think he's also learning some from me and I'm learning some from him. And having that mentality, I think we're going to keep improving and helping each other to become better players. So the mentality wise, I'm really surprised by it, because you never know if a young guy is 21 years old or how young he is, that he has achieved so much within his career already. Where is the mentality part, right? Does he want to improve, or does he think he's got it all figured out? And for me, that just shows that it feels like I'm playing with a new guy who never touched CS the way he wants to learn constantly. And I think that's one key thing to become the best team in the world.
Sweet. All right, you got anything, Striker?
No, we can move on, I think.
All right, let's move it on to the recent news. Lucas, roll the bumper, mate. All right, that ends the hot seat with karrigan. But when we get to playtime, if we have some time, we're going to be asking the questions from the community. You guys tweet it in. We'll get some of them from Twitch as well. But let's get stuck into the recent news, because it just feels like Katowice caused a cascade of roster changes. Whether or not that was the reason, we've seen a bunch in the last few days. It's really been popping on off. Now,
I mean, I'm sure that FaZe beating OG played a part in that. Yeah. That one roster change, at least. So.
I'd agree with that too. I think Heroic's result as well at Katowice probably played an issue in their changes as well. So I think, I don't know about the EG one. That's where we're going to start. This one here may have had a couple of other things going. So I want to be very careful when we talk about this one to start with, because this is probably where I might get a little bit unhinged. So I'm going to do my best to keep it calm. So we're going to talk about Ethan leaving EG to go to Valorant, right? I've just linked Lucas the news article. You can whack that one up. You can show everybody at home. Now, there's lots of things to talk through here. So let's just cover off the general news as it is itself. The team now are missing one of their star players, Ethan, alongside of Breeze, and I would say Cirque as well. That was the star trio. Stan, Tarek still there alongside them. Obviously, in-game leader and more seasoned veteran of the player, support player Tarek there. They've lost Ethan. He's gone to Valorant. We'll talk about Valorant. We'll talk about European boot camps. We'll talk about being away from home. We'll do all that soon. But let's just first focus in on what this means, right, overall for EG. Do we think there might be more changes coming with something like this, Prof?
More changes. I don't know where they can find the talent to fill the gaps. I hope not for that reason. But it's a hard player to replace usually. Even though Obo seems to fit quite well into the hole, but usually it's the type of a player that's very hard to find someone that's going to play these like anchor roles and play some of the tougher positions on the map and do it well and frag out and be one of the like 3 stars of the team. So from that perspective, it's difficult, but if they can get Obo, I think it's not that bad of a situation.
Okay. With the recent results, karrigan, did you think something was going to give in EG sometime soon?
Sorry, what, one more time?
Just given their recent results, right? Obviously, we had DreamHack Open where they struggled a bit. They haven't been doing fantastically. Did you think they were going to do a roster change or something along those lines?
I don't think this is a planned roster change. I think it comes down to the scenario that everybody's away from home, right? I don't think this is a performance change, because I don't feel like Ethan has been the worst performer in EG, if I remember correctly. So I think this comes down to Valorant staying in NA and not all the time playing in Europe, right? But right now, the next year, the NA teams have to kind of stay in Europe and be away from home for a long time, right? Living in hotel rooms or whatever they do. So I think this was not the thing they wanted. I don't think it's performance related. So what they're going to do from here, I think Obo is probably the best potential fix for that. An NA player who can, when everything turns to normal, come back with them to NA, right? Yeah, I just feel like NACS looks really dark at the moment. Even the perspective of COVID making lands harder, but also when land comes back, you can't really practice in NA anymore.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think the whole situation with NA teams is really tough.
All right, well, let's kind of focus right now on more of the Valorant side of things here, Striker, I think, before we get into the boot camping away from home, because there's more than one topic for us to dig into, right? Now, I saw that there was a bit of conversation last night online about how quick it was, him departing and then going straight into one of the best Valorant teams in North America. Now, someone I'm sure will correct me if I'm wrong on that. I don't know. I don't particularly follow Valorant. I think 100 Thieves are doing pretty good. They've got Steel, Hiko, Nitro over there. They had two other kids in there who I'm not sure if they had any Counter-Strike pedigree, but now that Ethan's in there, he replaced one of those younger names. Just for this to go straight from EG into 100 Thieves, Striker. Anyway, the conversation last night was like, oh, he must have been practicing both games at the same time type of thing. Where do you land on all of that? Do you think that must have been the case, or do you think it's just very easy for somebody as skilled as Ethan to transition to a similar base game, right? It's aim heavy game. Ethan's aim is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely no expert on Valorant, but it seems like CS players, there are some transferable skills there for sure, because like fucking 80% of the scene is CS players, essentially, like at the top tier. If you look at like the top teams that are in the game, it's essentially like 4 out of 5 CS players on each of those teams, man. So definitely some transferable skills, but at the same time, like it's been like close to a year since the game's been out, and I would assume that there's some sort of a learning curve there. So like to catch up after a year that the game has been out seems like not so easy. So that makes me think that there had to be like at least like a few months of Ethan actually trying to focus on the game and seeing how it fits him and stuff like that.
Yeah, if we're not beating around the bush here, Prof, those NA players are all kind of, playing, what is it, Radiant? Is that the highest rank? They're all playing the fucking... But the streams, everyone's doing it.
He did say that he played the game, but not like with a team. I think he said that they played like 3 or 4 days of practice, not with 100 Thieves or something. But that he did play the game and that he followed the tournaments like since the game came out. So obviously, I think if you just like quit CS a week ago and go into the game, which has like 17 different characters, you're definitely not going to go into the top 10 team in the world. No one's going to take you. I don't think that's realistic at this point. So he obviously had some interest in the game before like a week ago when he decided to quit EG or whenever that happened, right?
Yeah. I think though, like Karrigan, if you're a team like 100 Thieves, I'm not sure how much Valorant, if you play any Valorant, you can get a player like Ethan who is proven. You're picking him up, right?
I think so. Also, brand-wise, the focus on Valorant, right? And Ethan has been at the top in one game. He has the mentality. It often also comes down to, I think Ethan has been playing Valorant with them as friends, so just like matchmaking kind of stuff. And they could also see he had actually good skills and understand the game and shooting good back, right? But I think in the end, if you're shooting good back in the game, I think that's the key thing. Then you just learn the other stuff. And I think you learn that fast, right? Like I think the learning curve in Valorant is probably the shooting is the toughest one if you haven't played CSGO or anything game before that, compared to the characters and the ultis, right? It just comes really fast with experience. So I think he must have played it with them for fun, to see if he likes the game, and they probably saw he has a lot of frags and has actually the skill to become good in it.
Yeah, the Wizard and Pixie shit is like stuff that's going to constantly change as well, right? That's how they're going to balance it, like they do over there with League. So that's the thing. That's why you're going to have to spend a lot of time, right? I think like, whereas with Counter-Strike, you come back, a lot of the smokes are still going to be the same. Maybe a few maps change and shit, but the elements are going to be very similar, right? Now, let's pivot into the other part that has been brought up here. And this is the part that a lot of people have different takes on. Now, Pimp made a tweet, and I'm going to link this to Lucas, and we can bring this one up. And this one went on Reddit. And if you guys go into the Reddit comments, it's a fun thread. Now I'm going to read this for everybody who's just an audio listener. I don't have the full context of this. I'm just going like a Reddit user because that's what we do, right? So Pimps tweeted, NA Counter-Strike is under a lot of pressure. Most top teams haven't been home for months and are committing their entire lives to CSGO in a global pandemic. The hell with your they get paid to play or whatever else dumb take you have on your mind. Support them instead. Now, let's break this down into a couple of different buckets because we need to. We need to give this an interesting look in, right? Now, Pimp's tweet, let's get there in a roundabout way. First of all, I do a lot of Instagram stalking of the players. Now, that's so that I can know what's going on with boot camps and all that kind of shit. Ethan, I'm pretty sure, building a house. If looking at the Instagram is anything to go off, it seems like he's building a house with his missus, probably wants to spend a bit of time there. So if you just consider that from the standpoint that we're in, maybe he can get paid similar, maybe a little bit less, to not have to leave North America, to just play from home, knowing likely that Valorant's going to be a game that is region locked like the LCS and the LEC with their competitions. You still get to play at a high tier. You get to be one of the best in the game in the early stages. Maybe you can make a legacy and a name for yourself and be one of the best North American Valorant players of all time, at least in the early stages. Lots of really enticing things to consider there with that move, right? And not to have to live in Europe, because you bang on, I think, Finn, with the fact that you're looking at, you have to basically be living in Europe. This is where the conversation pivots, because anybody, right, during COVID now understands the value of what it means to be able to travel. If we did it like the players or even just for holiday and stuff before, you understand what we had and what we don't have now. But we also understand what we were missing before, and we actually got to experience more family, more of that kind of stuff, right? I think it's given a lot of people different perspectives. And you can't criticize somebody like Obo went home when he was had too much of Europe. If Ethan doesn't want to be there away for 2-3 months at a time, that's completely his prerogative to do so, right? But this is where we get into kind of the discussion to do with Pimp's tweet. Now, this is where we can do things within the realms of our world, right? And we can look at it by the posts of, we're all in esports, in Counter-Strike, and this is the world. And Karrigan and his boys are used to flying around, getting paid this much money, and then we get put in these hotels, and this is the quality of food, and this is the prize money, and that is just the way life is. And you can just look at that, and you can go, yeah, things that, and they need to be around this level, right? That's kind of where Pimp's tweet is going. That just because things are good doesn't mean it's not difficult to be away from home. It's not difficult to spend months on the road and all that kind of stuff. And he's right. But we also need to consider the fact that we are in a global pandemic and that there are thousands of people in the world who cannot work. And a job like this is not a job like stacking shelves, or a job like digging holes, or a job like being an accountant. This is a different job. This is a job that a lot of people would dream to do. And that doesn't mean just because a select group of people get to do it, that they need to take shit from everybody and hear how good their lives are all the time and all of that. But that means that those people who are living a pretty privileged life, which we are, need to have a little bit of perspective with all of this. So if Ethan wanted to play and make it work, he would. He clearly doesn't. His decision is to be more at home. That is his decision. That just, to me, means that he doesn't want to compete in Counter-Strike at the highest level. That's his choice. He wants to make that choice. That's completely up to him. This is the thing, guys. If these players want to go to Valorant, let them go. It's like if you're dating a girl and she doesn't want to be with you. It's better she's fucking gone than both of you be miserable as shit. It sucks to lose Ethan, but we don't want these players to be around if they don't want to be here. There's probably better North American talent who'll be on the come up, maybe not immediately, but in time, who are going to want it more than Ethan does, and will be able to compete for a brand like EG better than what Ethan does. So let's not sit here and fucking there's so many different takes and there's so much shit that I want to talk about, and I've managed not to blow a gasket. But like all of these different topics to do with this are nuanced. There's not one right position. There's not one wrong position. And everything is contextual based off of the individual. So like before we're fucking throwing shit out there all the time, let's just consider all these different aspects. Anyway, I've spoken for too long. Prof, say something. I'm lost my line of thought.
I mean, I think you have a good point. And it's kind of what I've been thinking with all of these moves. For some people, like you look at like someone like Steel moving away makes complete sense. Like you can't fault him at all. Like I think it'd be stupid for him not to move to a different game when he's banned from majors, can't play in top teams and stuff like that. But then you have players like that could make it work, but they decide not to make it work. The only thing that annoys me here is not like Ethan, like obviously he can do whatever he wants, but like people coming out and saying like, oh, he was forced to do this because of tournament organizers moving everything to Europe. It's like, come on, literally the last year everyone was at home. So it's not like we came off of like a 2018 year where we traveled to 12 events, 15 events a year. So we were like super tired of travel, and I have to be at home now. I'm super sick of this. So it's just like a decision to not sacrifice further and to find something that works better for you because you want to do it. You could, if you really wanted to compete in CS, if you had the love for CS that you, SPUNJ, are mentioning, the love for competition to be the best in CS, then you could do it. It's not the hardest thing in the world to be in Europe for a bit of time when you're paid quite well. So it's not like you can't ever see your friends, family, whatever. You can fly back, you can do whatever. Not currently. Currently, it's not super easy, but we're not expecting COVID to last for like another 8 years or some shit. It's definitely better than it was 6 months ago. So it's most likely going to go in a better direction in like 12 months from now, right?
Sure. I kind of want to stick with this EG and Ethan topic, but I also want to kind of bleed this over into talking about North American CS. Striker, it seems like everybody's talking about this like it's bleak and it's the end of the world, and we always had all these tournaments in North America. Is that what you're seeing? What are you seeing with all this talk?
I mean, I kind of liked, I don't know if you saw Peter's tweet about this, because I really like the sentiment that he brought, just because I'm just going to bring it up because he just worded it in a really nice way. I hope I actually can find it in decent amount of time. But essentially, what his point was that, like, we will survive. You know, like we're gonna be fine no matter what. Like, it's inevitable that like some other top tier talent in North America is going to take Ethan's place, and you know, like the ball will keep rolling. It's not like this is the end of the world. Of course, NA has been definitely hurt by not only the pandemic but Valorant, you know, coming in for sure. But it's not like there's zero talent. There are still players, you know, coming up. Like just look at Cloud9 with Sloppy and Zeppa. You know, look at Obo, who's still like a free agent essentially, and who hopefully knows actually wants to play in Europe now and realizes that he might have made a mistake, you know, with leaving Complexity. So there's still talent available for these teams to pick up. Sure, it's a bad thing that we're losing some of these players, but there's always going to be some others who will come up as long as there's some sort of a grassroots scene, which I think there still is in North America, even though it's been hurt.
Well, there's the ESEA, right? And they're doing the cash cups and they're trying to do more of those things from that angle. Obviously, people blame ESL for pulling those spots away. But Finn, this is where I want to pivot and talking, I guess, about the Pro League, because that's where these North American teams feel like they've been completely betrayed and everything taken away from them. But when we look at North American Counter-Strike and we look at European / the rest of the world Counter-Strike, I kind of look at it a little bit, especially with what has happened recently with Valorant, like football. I don't know, are you a football fan?
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, I'm not, so I'm going to say some stuff that's really dumb, and you can tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong here. But it seems to me like the rest of the world has a pretty good affinity for football, right? Like Europe love it, the Brazil, they fucking froth it. You know, everybody is loving football, and obviously not every single country in the world, but you guys get what I'm saying here. And then North America, they're like, they're pretty shit. They have like their league and they get their cheerleaders out there. The rest of the world, we don't really do football that way. So then they just make their Americanized version. They have NFL. And then they all froth that one and they put these big pads on, they run into each other, and it's a completely different game. But like if people were going to look at like the games, I think the more popular one in the whole world, I'm stabbing the dark here, would be traditional football, right? Like, is it just America? They can't play with everybody else and like the game that everyone considers the best, they just make their own? Is this like kind of the same thing with Valorant, or do you think that the reason is the money? Like, are we losing all these players just purely because of money, or is it because they think they can be better in a game that maybe a little bit easier for them?
I think it comes down to specific situation, right? I think if you look at Nitro, for example, he got benched. I can only imagine he's thinking like, okay, then I have to do another team. It's gonna build up. Maybe the player's gonna get in the another team is not as good as I want them to be. So I have achieved a lot in CSGO, so I'll go Valorant now. I think this is the time, right? That's how I look at the Nitro situation. I think that was the first big loss we had for the NACS, was him moving, because some of the young talents moved already. And also by playing in NV, I knew already when I joined mousesports that the NA practice was not good. There was not good enough teams where you could improve as a team. So bootcamp is the only option in Europe to improve overall and keep improving, right? Because everybody in Europe is playing each other. I think if you ask all NA teams, the practice you have in Europe, even if it's a top 30, top 40 team, maybe you never heard about them, they actually shoot really good back. You know, they actually play good players compared to a team you never heard about in NA, which is in the ECA or whatever. They're not playing really good as the European team. So the level is different, and by having a lower level in your region, you're not going to improve as good as the other region. So that's one thing. When you look at the even thing, I think that's a mixture of the global situation and also how it's going to look like forward, right? Because right now, for a short time period, there's two things here, right? Either even doesn't have the drive that he wants to be the best CSGO player who ever touched the game. If you have that, you don't care about anything else, right? It's like, for me, I prioritize CSGO really high in my life. I've done for a long time. So whatever the obstacle I find in my way, we're not going to get lands. Okay, then I become really good in this spirit. I improve on other stuff. I improve my mentality. I work on different stuff if I cannot win big trophies at the moment. And I think if people have not the right mentality for CSGO and they're just playing it, it just became, it was a hobby, but it became a job. You know, if you have that bridge from the hobby to the job, you're never going to achieve the best results. And I think there's a bigger chance you go to another game. But if I grew up looking at the idols in 1.6, I want to be like them. I even want to be better than them. And I want to achieve great things. It doesn't matter what I have in front of me. If my salary is going to get cut by 50%, I would still love the game. I would still play the game. I want to play the tournaments in the arenas. So yeah, there is a motivation issue not playing on the stage. And I think that also has the factor now that there's a bigger chance that people might switch to Valorant, because anyway, they're not going to be lands for 6 months with big arenas, right? So I think there's so many different ways you're going to look at it if you talk about the players moving to Valorant. I don't see anything in Europe right now moving to Valorant. It doesn't make sense for me if the pro teams does it in Europe, because everything is based in Europe at the moment.
Yeah, and look, I'm about to get my little bit angry man chat on here for a second, because I think what you're talking about there in North America makes perfect sense. They have the money, they have the events to be able to run, and the players can stay there and earn it. The thing that I can't fucking take coming out of the North Americans is this one fact, is the complaining about being away from home for months at a time. Now, I understand that is a difficult thing to do. I understand that better than any of them. The last time that I went back to my actual home was Christmas of 2020. No.
Oh, 19.
Yeah, 2019. Christmas of 2019. Yeah, it was Christmas of 2019. This isn't me saying, oh, look at me and whoa, my life is so hard. This is the exact opposite. This is me going, I, as a 14-year-old kid who started playing Counter-Strike WCG 2004, watching 23, the WA team, which is my hometown where I was from, play at a tournament against the other best teams in the world and get absolutely fucking reamed out. But I stayed up until 4 a.m. in the morning watching it because I wanted to, you know, see what the best Counter-Strike team from my country could do. And then catching the bug from there, and then, you know, being on the toilet shitting and in school drawing on my notebook, and all I could ever think about was Counter-Strike. The opportunity to go overseas and live and compete in Counter-Strike was a dream. So there's no version in my life where it goes, oh, that's too fucking hard, right? What, Finn, you're saying, you know, it's the highest priority in your life. When I date girls, I tell them Counter-Strike's number one. Maybe you can be like on par with Counter-Strike, but you're never gonna. No, seriously, you're never gonna be better than Counter-Strike. Unfortunately, Counter-Strike has been there my entire life. Like, I'm 31 now, right? If a woman comes in, it's love of my life, and, you know, I want to have kids and get married and do all that shit, that's fucking great. But she's always going to be against Counter-Strike. Not like they don't have to be against each other, but she's going to be there with it, right? So to hear from these players complaining that they're away from home for a long period of time, they're doing something that a lot of people dream of doing. That doesn't mean it's not hard. I'm not saying it's not hard. Things in life are hard. You have to pick. Do you want the hard thing that you fucking love, or do you want the bitch way out where you're going to sit there and regret and think that I never did what I wanted to do to become the fucking best? You can't have both. You can't have both. My mum and dad always said to me in life, you can't have your cake and fucking eat it. They didn't say fucking because they're not like me, but they said you can't have your cake and eat it. And that's true in life. You can have a lot of things. You can be a professional video game player. Listen to that for a second. Listen to that. A professional video game player. It is a sick job. You get to do something that people dream of, and you have worked extremely hard to be there, and you earn a shitload of money, and you have a lot of fans, and you're a sick cunt in my book. You guys are all better than me and better than I ever would be, and I am in admiration of everything you do every day I watch. But you are still getting to do something that is amazing, right? And at some point, if you want to make that trade-off, you can, right? And Ethan, in my mind, has. He's an example of doing that, and that's fine. I do not criticize him whatsoever. But let's not complain about this. When the Brazilians moved to a different continent, right? It's a different continent, South America, North America, different continent, to follow their career. The Australians moved from Australia to America, which was a shithole living in Las Vegas. Let me fucking tell you. We've had people move from North America, like Zappa and Floppy, to live in North America, to live in Europe, away from home. All these people have done these things, and it is hard. But let's not fucking bitch and moan about it. There wasn't like a shitload of tournaments in North America that you guys were competing in anyway. We came over twice a year to wave at New York. Maybe we went to Dallas. That was it. It's not like we were there all the time. And if you're worried about growing and having the scene and doing all that kind of shit, yeah, that sucks. Australia doesn't have a fucking scene. Brazil doesn't have a fucking scene. Like, we're doing our best with what we've got. And this is what's happening. So let's just screw our fucking heads on for a second. You're probably the most privileged country in the whole fucking world. You're not going to have it with Counter-Strike 2 at the moment. That's just not happening. You guys fucked up a little bit when it came to the whole COVID situation. And now we can't come over there without everyone being scared as shit. So just calm the fuck down for a little while. We're going to be back. It's all good.
That's the one thing I want to add, though, right? I mean, when it comes to playing professional CS, it's a wonderful life when it goes good, right? But you also have to think about the situation. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stuff. So it's not I would not say the perfect job in the world. I don't think there's such kind of thing. There's always good and bad things, right?
Sure.
Obviously, you're doing what you love to do. It's your passion. You do it. But I also have experience in my career that there's times where I'm not happy. And I have obviously thought like, okay, waking up every day, playing video game 8 hours, and I cannot take it with the mood of the team, the way we play, all that kind of stuff, right? So saying that can also be one of the things with Ethan, that he didn't feel the results were so bad. It's going to take so long time coming back. So better get out now than having a miserable time playing in a team where it doesn't feel good, you know? I have no idea how that feels, but sometimes a player, in my situation with FaZe Clan the last few months back then last time, I hated it. I didn't enjoy playing anymore, right? It wasn't feeling good. It was not feeling right. I didn't wake up saying, yes, another day of practice, right? Right now, and in mousesports all the time, okay, today we're going to improve, right? But if I don't have the drive, it's going to be the worst job of the world for me. Because the drive is going to make you become the best player in the world. So I think that's also an important thing. Maybe Ethan didn't have the drive anymore because of the team. Maybe it would have changed if he went to another team. Maybe he tried to go to another team, but it didn't make sense, or he couldn't join that team. And he thought like, okay, then I change the game. I get a new vision. I stay more home, right? And I think that's the most important thing to note, that pro CS is not always the best job in the world.
Sure.
It comes with negatives as well, right? Playing 12 hours a day, 13 hours a day, and maybe you don't enjoy it, but you have to do it. But in life, it's all about your job. You have to find that one thing that keeps you driving. Even if you have a bad day, you have to meet up and be professional and stuff like that. I think that also goes with your job, right? When people are turning around the world and you don't feel like casting today, but I have to put on a show for my fans and what people pay me for, and I'll do my best at that day, right? Because you're going to have bad days.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, that's it. Yeah, nail on the head right there. I think everyone experiences that every day. It's just about finding that balance, like you're saying. Now, boys, I chewed up a lot of time here. Do we have anything else we want to talk about with the Ethan EG situation, or keep it moving?
I just want to point out how you changed knees like during the rant from like the happy face to the sad face, and I thought it was pretty funny.
Someone on Twitter said I should put a sad face on my knee, so I did both. I thought we could mix it up as we're going.
You started with the happy face, and then like mid-rant, you just changed these to the sad face, and I just had to laugh.
All right, let's keep it going. Let's move into this OG situation. Prof, we're not surprised, are we?
Definitely not that there's a change. Maybe not that much. I think people are maybe overhyping the MBK benching, like as if MBK was sjuush or some shit in this team. Like that's the sentiment almost that's being sold. Yeah, maybe is the more obvious change and maybe easier to replace, but it's not like NBK was super amazing. The worst thing is, like, I feel like his last tournament was probably the best one that he played individually.
Okay.
So that's maybe what makes it so weird. But I think OG even said that it's mostly about like the understanding between players and how they want to play the game, the reason why they decided to remove NBK.
When you read that, Karrigan, do you ever think that's the case, or do you think it's something else?
I mean, it's not the first time it happened with MBK, to be honest, right? It was the same with Vitality during the Berlin Major. But here's the one thing, because I always read a lot of interviews, talk with people at LANs. What I realized is when they made that team, I told myself there's too many strong voices. MBK has a strong voice. That's what we have learned from the past years with the friend scene and everything. He has a strong voice in what he wants to do and how the team should play. I also think Valde has a very strong voice, how he visioned the game from his North time. He learned to take the responsibility as a leader. He needed to step up. And once you have become a strong voice in any team, trust me, you cannot go back to be a quiet guy. It's very hard because you have another vision of the game. And then you have Alexi B coming from ends, where from my point of view, there wasn't so strong voice, only maybe Alu how to play the game. Everybody else in that team from outside perspective sounded for me like they were okay whatever Alexi wanted to do. So he made a team where I would say there's 3 really strong voices, plus you have a coach. Now, from the last things you heard where you came into the voice come, there was also about too many ideas, you know, everybody wants to do something doing a round. And unfortunately for this situation, I think it's second time, third time this happens with MBK again, that he has not the same vision as the team. And that doesn't look good on the paper for MBK at the moment. I feel like it's not about the performance issue or whatever it is, you know, like it didn't work out. But it's gonna be mentioned again that there is a vision issue about the game, and I'm pretty sure it's not the first time I read that or heard about it.
Sure. Striker, do you think there should have been 2 changes, or do you think one's enough?
I mean, you can always see how it goes, right? Like, it's not like there's super pressure to like make a massive overhaul, especially with. I feel like it's relatively recent that OG have started to struggle as well, and so like making drastic changes all of a sudden because of 3 bad tournaments in a row, I feel could be a little bit, you know, over the top. So I can see where they're coming from if they want to, you know, make this one, and then if that doesn't work out, maybe they'll see, okay, that then we should have probably made the second one as well. I'm not totally opposed to doing it one by one. Maybe they feel like they still can make it work with this. Maybe they feel like if things go back to LAN, he's just going to go back to being a really valuable player. That's something that Alexi did say last time. Well, the last show, right? Just before they made this change, he was kind of defending him that in that aspect that the online era has definitely hurt him the most, which makes perfect sense. 100%. Not only because of the ping, but also because of the type of a player he is. He's always very vocal. He's always very energetic and stuff like that. These are the values that you kind of want to have in a LAN player and stuff. So I can definitely see why they would want to see how it goes when things come back to LAN, which we hope is going to be early enough, right? And so that I can definitely understand.
Yeah.
In terms of, by the way, just to add on to what Karrigan was saying, in terms of NBK, I feel like it's still a good sign that he stayed with the team for over a year now. Like, it's a year and 3-4 months or something since this team came together, and I feel like that's a very long time for like a massive, you know, issue in terms of visions of the game and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand as well, right? It's 1 year in. Like in Cloud9, it was 3 months in, and the vision was already broken there, right? So I mean, there must have been issues for a long time where they tried to figure it out, because this doesn't make sense if MBK suddenly changed vision of the game, like during COVID-19, right? So I mean, it's tough to say, but we'll also say this is one of the times where it makes sense for OG to test something out. Maybe MBK comes back, who knows, right? Because right now there's so many free agents. They're even free. You can just practice with them, with the guys, or you also possibility to loan players. There's for a month, like FPX did, for example, with Kjaerbye. Try them out for a month, see how the synergy is, how does the player fit in the profile you need. And I think that is very unique because you don't have so many lands. So if you want to make changes to the lineup, this is the time to do it, because I think within 6 months we are starting to see lands again, and that's not so easy, because then I think people are starting to buy into CSGO again. Right now, people don't want to spend money. You don't know how long this is going to drag out all the budgets in all organizations, right? So right now the time to test players, and this is not the best time to be free agent, to be honest, because right now people don't want to change too much.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of free agents right now. Who do you think is obviously we've got NiKo as the rumor right here, Prof. Do you think that's a good fit? Do you think there's another name off that long free agent list that would fit this better?
Yeah, I think it's a decent fit. Maybe not as experienced, definitely as NBK, and I'm not sure how he'll fit into like I know NBK played a lot of sites like with ISA, so how is that combination going to work? I didn't really see like NiKo, the Danish NiKo, as someone that's going to be very vocal or like call the small site, and organize the smaller site when AWPer is on the other one. So that part seems a bit weird to me.
I guess Valda can be vocal,
yeah,
right?
that's what I believe, at least, that they're gonna move around. So AWPer and Valda is not playing the same spots where it makes sense.
That would make sense.
I'm still a little bit worried here. Is there enough firepower, you think, Finn? Like, because that's what they were lacking before, right? Mad2 was good, Valda was good. They just weren't getting consistency out of the other three.
Yeah, I have a hard time looking at players saying like this is the player you have to rely on, right? In mousesports, look at ropz. In our situation, look at ropz is gonna be a star player. We need to set him up. When I look at OG, I like AWPer is a good individual caller, right? He is doing a lot of good moves. He's hitting good shots, stuff like that. Valda has been in the past a really good player in North, but he haven't lived up to that yet in OG. When you look at the lineup, I would say Valda is the best player. Like that's the guy you need to perform. But we can all agree he hasn't been at that level where people thought in 2018 he's gonna join Astralis, right? He was insane back then. So on paper, I feel like the team looks a stable team in that sense. They are not without firepower, but it's not like you look at the line like shit. Okay, they all just shoot hard back. It most feel like some unstable players, but also some who can hit short peaks. I think Mantu was the biggest wildcard, and I think he was the one that surprised me the most in the OG lineup. When you look at all the names to put together, Isa, I think he's a stable player when it comes to LAN and stuff like that. Val is supposed to be the biggest star of the team, but I felt Mantu kind of took that the first half year of the team. He was the biggest surprise for me, and I felt like this OG is going to be good, but it felt like it never connected on the page. So to answer the question, I don't think they have too much firepower or too little. I think then in the good mix, and now just about making sure that everybody gets a piece of the cake. Like some maps where they perform really good, and some other players take other maps. I feel that's the issue right now in OG. Okay.
We got a lot to get through here, so do you guys want to just keep trucking through these?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, Heroic. Obviously, the other side of this, we were just mentioning NiKo from Heroic. Well, him and borup, they get the boot. They brought in sjuush and refrezh. Now, the Heroic results, I, for whatever reason, just remember Heroic winning ESL1 Cologne and thinking it was yesterday. And I'm wrong. That was some time ago now, and their results haven't been what they have desired for some time now. Getting rid of borup, I can understand potentially if you look at the stats. Getting rid of NiKo, I couldn't really justify that one right there. Makes me think it's a little bit more than just wanting some fresh blood within the team. What do you make of this, Prof?
Yeah, I kind of agree with the NiKo change. I'm not really sure why it happened. It seemed like, first of all, it seemed like a player that Hunden really liked from the past and everything. It seemed like he is one of those players that when ex-teammates talk about him, he is the guy that everyone praises. Yeah, like a good glue guy, just doing what needs to be done, doesn't make any issues on the team. About borup, like, okay, he's playing some of the hard roles, not having that much success. So you can see, even though he's playing the hard roles, why you want to replace him if you have the opportunity to find someone better. And they're going to put sjuush in those roles. That's what they said. And those are the roles that he played originally back in the original Mad Lions team. I think he changed some positions since. So that completely makes sense to me. If Mad Lions are just like want to get rid of the whole Danish thing, this guy is going to be available. You pick him up for sure. I'm just not sure about the NiKo for refrezh swap, just because like I'm not really sold on refrezh yet as being like a super good player. And then maybe he's just like a bit better, but is it worth a change and relearning everything and what you lose with the old guy and stuff like that?
Yeah. Finn, when you look at refrezh, because I think sjuush, everybody seems to think that he's going to have a good career for him, especially as the type of player he is. But when we look at refrezh, I know that a lot of people remember that little stint he had standing in for Cloud9. Some people think it's a little bit overblown. What do you think refrezh has the potential to be a good player?
I think so. I think he's a hardworking guy. I think he's still young. He has actually tried to be playing in the top teams, playing at top level on LAN, stuff like that. And I saw him as a really good player. I think back then when I got benched, obviously had some Danish offers, and he was one of the guys I actually wanted to try to play with, because I think he was a smart guy in the way he wants to play the game as well. So I talked to him back then. But I haven't seen much to him lately. Like, it seems like after the Cloud9 stint, he had to go a lot of tires down in the Danish CS to come back at the level, and now he's in Heroic. But one thing I must admit, I think this Heroic change is very early on. Like, they just peaked #1 in the world, and they're dropping down the rankings. And if you somehow haven't built a chemistry doing that top place and trying to figure out where it goes wrong, I feel like they're giving fast up on the lineup compared to going straight into two new options. We have no idea. The guys have never played with them, I think. So they don't know the guys, how they're actually going to play into with them. Now, Huden has probably coached or played with them, so he knows what kind of players they are. But I think this is a big gamble for Heroic. Like, I don't see it as an upgrade on paper. Like, when I look at the players, I still feel like they have Twistzz have been probably one of the best players in the lineup for some time with Down, and Kaden has been the key factors. But it doesn't feel for me that borup and NiKo underperformed in any capacity where I'm looking at this guy disappearing, you know? Because they were playing so confident CS for a few months, rather. I feel like playing a really, really good team, you know, in the way they played, they made it moved. And suddenly they lost 3 tournaments and everything disappeared for them. And I feel it's a gamble to not try to get back that groove in the lineup this early on. It would be the same if we would have changed in April already with woxic and changing 2 new players. For me, that would be too early. When you have reached a highest level and being some top 1 or being top 2 for some time period, I think that gives you a leash to like say, okay, 8-9 months down the road, if you keep going down, then we have to change. I think this is, for my opinion, too early.
Yeah, and I think that's what probably feeds into especially, you know, with some of these decisions, maybe it isn't just about what they're giving in the server, right? Maybe because I know that they were boot camping, maybe some stuff happened. We can only speculate about that, and we probably shouldn't. But when you look at this, what other players do you think would have been available, Striker? I know Pimp said the likes of Kjaerbye and AZ, to which almost made me vomit inside of my mouth. What do you think there was any other Danish names that they could have gone for, especially if they're grabbing people from Mad Lions?
I mean, you had somebody in particular in mind, or?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, TMB was meant to be like one of the next, you know, up and comers, right? So is there a reason if they're going to do it, they're not going to take a risk on a player like that? If you're making a change, like Finn's saying, and you've just peaked, you know, you must think something's wrong. So they think they can plug the gap with these two. Yeah, are you with that? Do you think that's possible?
Maybe. I guess I was definitely surprised as much as everybody just to see this come so early. But at the same time, I feel like that's been kind of like in Heroic's blood. I feel like they're like a poor man's version of the Cloud9 that kept changing like literally every month or two. And because the past 3 years, I even look through their changes now.
Oh, yeah.
It's like every 3 months they have a change. Whether it's because they actually want to make a change or whether somebody's leaving the team for somebody else and they're forced to it, they literally make changes every 3 months in some way. Either it's like coaching change or actual playing change. So it's just something that is just like in their legacy or whatever, where they run into a problem and they just make changes, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I still weird on this one.
What was the last tournament they actually won?
DreamHack Open Fall. It's October or like late September, I think.
But I still think it's too early. That's like, I'm trying to figure back because they were so good, you know, like for a few months.
So where did they go? So it was DreamHack Open Fall,
late
they
October.
Won. Yeah,
then they won DreamHack Open Fall.
Beijing didn't go well. Shodan didn't go well. I think the Global Challenge didn't go well. Summit, they came 3rd, 4th, right? That was okay. That was 3rd, 4th with VP and Fnatic being in the final there.
But I was from the outside just saying, okay, they got to figure out how they play, how to beat them. Like, that's how I feel like when I have to look from the outside, and not because people played really poorly suddenly. I just think they got figured out how they play CS and how they want to do stuff. They have special tendencies, and I think people just realize them and kind of respected them as a team in the end. You know, when a team wins, being the first place or win first time, you're like, yeah, okay, they're just confidence. But then they win the next, you start really anticipating them because you respect them more as a team. And I think that what happened in the end, that they got figured out. And yeah, 2 new players, they're good players, but like I said, it's not for me on the paper a huge upgrade.
Yeah, I think we might see them dip down a little bit before we see them bounce back. Currently at 14th in the world, so we'll see how it goes. It's very competitive within the top fucking 30 right now, isn't it? Top 20 definitely. Top 30 starting to bleed out a little bit. All right, where are we at here? We are going to keep this one moving forward. Obviously, I just mentioned Mad Lions. Rejoined got in over at Mad Lions Striker, and now they're not even a team anymore. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, the report is that they're just going to an international team now.
There's Woxic's new home, huh? Rejoined, Woxic teaming up.
I don't know where you heard that. I
don't know. It makes sense.
Oh,
like,
right.
I'm just taking a stab in the dark here, right?
But
They've gone international.
TMB is the only one on the team right now, right?
Yeah.
But he's an AWPer, no?
He's like a secondary. He was supposed to be an AWPer in this team, I think, but like originally he's secondary or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think the report was an international team, right? International.
Yeah. The report was.
I mean, this is also the time.
Twistzz.
If you have the money, you're selling your players. You can actually get some players cheap right now, which would cost a lot of money if you look back 1 year. That's a little like you can make a whole Danish team, basically, right? MSL, AC,
right.
Kjaerbye.
Oh, not you too, Finn. Not you
I'm
too.
I'm just saying, on paper, you can in theory make a Danish team as well, right?
Oh,
you
sure.
take the best parts of the Danish players and mix it with some of the bench players.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that in theory, you can get a whole new North.
That's the problem, though, right? It's just a cycle. It's just
It's just a
you should not do that. You just take 1 or 2 of the parts you want for your life.
We get
right?
pimped as the coach.
Yeah.
Anyway, the report actually pointed to Twistzz from an IP, obviously, mihu, and XePower to link up with TMB.
Oh, XePower as well. There's a lot of options. You can build 4 or 5 good teams right now, in my opinion. That could easily get top 30.
Masha said he has his five-man set. They're just waiting for an orc. So,
oh, did he really?
He said that on Twitch on his stream.
Okay, Flusher has his 5.
Has his 5 players, and they're
just without Sunny or what? Because Sunny is in.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just standing in for FPX at this point. Okay. It's not. It definitely doesn't seem like it's a. I mean, we can talk about it now, I guess.
Do we have? First of all, yeah, we can bleed these two together. Do we have, by any chance, a free agent list hanging around? I always know that HLTV forums tend to have something going on.
Maybe there's someone
too big
around somewhere, but it's just a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay, so if Flusher says he has, because we've got these 2 topics, right? So Sunny, just to get everybody caught up at home, Sunny is standing in for FPX for EPL, which means that Chris J, for whatever reason, obviously the deal didn't get done. They had success with Chris J earlier. They made it to that grand final. Didn't they win was it a Snow Sweet Snow?
They won Snow Sweet Snow. Snow Sweet Snow, yeah.
Which, as we know from Gambit, which we'll talk to about very soon, is quite an important tournament these days.
They're literally the only team that has beaten Gambit in the past 2 months.
Isn't that wild? But having Sunny come in here right now, are we expecting him to be in-game leading this team? Like, what's going on there? Like, I'm a bit confused because the in-game leadership role was the one they wanted to fill, and it felt like Sunny wanted to get away from that, and now he's here. Anyone got a thought on this?
I mean, he was originally supposed to join, or at least was linked with the team, right? And then he decided against it because of this Flusha new international squad that he just believed in more. And so definitely he wanted to in-game lead this team at first. So I would imagine he will now, even though he's a stand-in. It's definitely an awkward situation where you have to have a stand-in as an in-game leader. I feel like that has to be really tough to make work.
Yeah, I think like Crystal now has been gone for a long enough period of time where his system is going to be starting to fall apart. Finn, I don't know how long ago it was that he left, but they've had Emmy in there, they've had Chris J, now they're going to have Sunny. Maybe there's a name that I missed. How long can this FPX roster keep their head above water like this?
This is a very strange situation, right? That's the worst guy you want to stand in. That's the in-game leader. The guy is getting in, basically gonna get voted out after 2 tournaments. Then you get to implement his style or whatever. You're in-game leader. You come in and you use somebody else's tactics. That's the worst thing I know. Like, I want to complete start from scratch and build up my system. There's key things, and I cannot imagine how this is beneficial for the team. For me, this would be so demotivating every time, and especially with a new in-game leader, everything changes. Like the way of calls, everything changes from my point of view. If it was the AWPer, it would be easy because all the 4 players had their system. You plug in the AWPer, just throw the grenades, and you do like that. The caller knows how to use the player. but this is the worst role to throw around like a ball, you know, like, okay, you can try it now, you can try it now. At this point, I hope someone in the team is taking the in-game leading role so he knows how to use the players, because this is very strange for me. For Sonny to stand in, be the in-game leader of something in Pro League, and then just leave again. And for me, it's just like they're trying to get water off the boat all the time. They're not trying to figure out how to fix the boat.
And how long do you think, Prof, that this team can last like this, right? Because we've seen this with a lot of squads. FaZe is one of them who managed to get back an in-game leader. But like when you look at it, Zen, Maiden, Stiko have been together for a while. Farley's been there for a decent chunk of time now. This revolving door of the fifth, like, is that going to hurt the other four? Are they going to start looking for other offers? Do you think if other people come sniffing for these names because they're good players?
I think the only reason why I don't think it's going to happen soon is because they literally just signed contracts with FPX, and I presume for like a decent chunk of time. So it's going to be hard to get them out of those contracts. So I don't really think I don't think they're going to be thinking about that, because with all of the free agents or bench players that orgs want to get rid of, I don't think these guys are going to be really just like worth it for anyone at this moment, right? Just because of their buyouts. Sure. When you have, like, I just linked the list on Twitter. Someone made an update.
Oh, nice.
With that, I think let's save that and do that in playtime, because I still want to get through this Katowice stuff, right? So we'll just touch on it now.
I was just thinking that maybe Lekro wouldn't be a bad shout for them for an in-game leader. I don't know if he's connected to this Flusha thing, but seems like someone that could fit in.
All right. Well, I reckon we talk about these free agents a little bit later. Do we have anything else we want to touch with Mad Lions and Sunny stuff, or do we can probably roll that into the convo later? All right, let's keep it moving. We're going into Katowice. If you guys missed it, Gambit won. I don't know how else to say this, but they came from, I want to say they came from nowhere. The problem is you guys are all hardcore listeners and viewers. So most of you are aware that Gambit has been grinding and on the rise, and they've been looking good. And like, they just haven't had the opportunities because of the closed nature of a lot of these tournaments now to compete against the best. And maybe they weren't ready to, but in this tournament, they flourished and they looked really good. So I want to draw most of this to you, Karrigan, because like us clowns over here, we can talk as much as we want, but you're the one who is playing at this level and you get to watch these kids play style. Is this a legit victory?
I would say so. What I like the most is not like Gambit came out of nowhere. I think the Gambit and VP situation, they have actually been underrated a lot during the rankings, because when I think about it, when I saw the VPs ranked 5 in the world, I'm thinking to myself, that's actually all right. It makes sense, because the way they have been playing for lately, they want the flashpoint and stuff like that. Gambit has been a team that's a lower level than VP in that sense, that they played lower tournaments. But obviously, I'm researching for different maps, and I just saw some of the statistics they have on different maps. Gambit, I think ropz is insane. What they have there, I'm not quite sure if they're still that. But like, that was like a few weeks ago.
They were like 14 in a row on it.
Yeah, I was trying to, and then I'm thinking to myself, when you're winning 14 times in a row against, let's say, 10 different teams, that's 10 different playstyles where your style has to work, you know? And at that point, it will also work whoever you're playing in a pro team, because you know how to adapt in all the different playstyles on the maps. So already that, and then mix that with confidence that they finally can play the best teams in the world. They have the confidence on all the maps. They feel really good in middle. They're sitting in bootcamp. They're young, and they're probably the most hungry of all teams in Katowice. I can tell you that's 100% sure. They wanted to prove themselves to the world that they belong to be in these big tournaments, and they did it. You know, this is a good victory, and it's, for me, it's not like there was a crazy moment where they should never been here. I felt like in all the matches they played, they were in full control. It's not like somebody didn't have a chance. I didn't see the final, obviously, but when I look at the results, it felt like VP crumbled under the pressure in that moment. Yep. But Gambit, just in all the time, they were the underdog role, but it felt like they kept the underdog they had from the beginning of the tournament. They built up more pressure on themselves, and it seems like they handled it really good. Even if they were in front, they closed the map out early. If they were getting pressured, they came back really strong without having too many individuals just popping off doing simple stuff. They have really good individuals, but I think as a team, they play really good CS. And that's, for me, the most important thing to watch towards that team, that they came basically out of nowhere, but they improved in the Tier 2 scene, that they're best Tier 2 team in the world in that sense.
Sure. Now, one of the moments they had in that game where they started to struggle was a little bit of a comeback from VP on overpass late. But with this game, Striker, it didn't feel like the same Gambit that was winning the rest of the games with the constellation of players fragging, right? There was a lot more contribution from some of the names that were quieter throughout the tournament. Shiro as well kept relatively quiet in the final, and they still managed to get it done.
I think that was the most impressive, that even like the people who are usually kind of like relatively quiet actually had step up maps and stuff like that. They didn't need Shiro to be like a massive star in that final, or even in the semifinal that they played against Spirit. So that I think was the most impressive. That while with VP it was really just like them crumbling under the pressure, even though this is something that I said on Twitter, like it's just looked like the roles were pretty much reverse. Like as if Gambit was the experienced team and VP were the what is the name, Shy Nellies, whatever, that came into the final like for the first time and stuff like that. Never really were in that position before. They fucking won tournaments before. They did it on a major, They were in a final of a major, then won another tournament afterwards, were in some finals before. And so that was the most impressive in terms of how Gambit won this event, that they just looked super in control the entire way through.
We're going to talk more about the CIS teams as a whole in a minute, Prof. But do you think Gambit will be able to keep this up now they've reached this high? Or do you think this is one of these situations where teams now just completely study them and the better teams will be all over them going forward?
Yeah, I think one of the difficulties is that like the individuals that popped off here in certain matches to win the semi so easily, to win the grand final so easily, will they be able to do that consistently and against like other teams, other big international teams? I think they also had some good fortune with the bracket. We lost Striker.
That's all right.
They had some fortune with the bracket playing only CIS teams in the playoff, right?
Yeah.
So it help. NAVI, Spirit, and then VP. So that like if they played Astralis in the grand final, how'd that go?
Yeah. That's actually my point, because I feel like if they would play a NAVI or Astralis in the final, that would probably be tougher on them than VP, right? VP has everything to lose in that final, in my opinion. At that moment, they had been the up-and-coming CS team for, I don't know, for a year now, right? They were in the major final. They have the more experience, where I feel like Gambit came slowly into the ranking the last month or two. And VP has been there now for quite a while, right? So I think that was the perfect final they could get when you look at all the teams on the way to the final.
Yeah, it almost lined up for them there. So when we think about this and just the context of that tournament, a lot of people are going to be saying, "Oh, onliners or fluke or this or like that." We already established. We asked you off the bat, Karrigan, if it was legit. You've said, "Yeah, it's legit, based on the brand of Counter-Strike they won," but they still had to have things obviously go their way, right? They're going to need to back this up in the future, right? That's the way Counter-Strike works. It's not just win one tournament. You consider the greatest is doing this over a longer period of time. So we're going to find out really soon. Luckily, they're in EPL. And we were touching just there on VP choking. But one thing that was getting a lot of traction around both of these names and their runs was a lot of people calling them onliners, and a lot of people saying, online, they're just shooting heads really hard. And, they're so confident. Like we heard the same thing. We had last year, like sitting there drinking their Coke, right? That was the meme that came out of there. Obviously, not necessarily applying to the CIS guys, but a similar vein. Now, when this gets explained, I think we all do a rough job of explaining this to people, right? Because people are like, well, what's the difference between LAN and online? Well, the obvious difference is the latency, right? And the way that you can approach the game. But the second thing is being either in a room, when you guys are doing, say, for example, I'll talk about ESL events because I have the most experience with those. Like the group stage is there. You're maybe not sitting directly across from your opponent, but you can hear fucking Stewie yelling from 3 booths away, right? Like, he's there, and there's ambient shit going on. There's a couple cunts in your face with cameras getting B-roll footage, and they're getting your reactions, and a lot more shit's happening. There's a lot more distractions going on, right? That's one big tick. But I was trying to think of ways that I could explain this quite succinctly to people at home who maybe have never played at a LAN and understand, how it would feel. And I came up with one that I don't know. Let me know if you guys think this fits. Now, I'm going to assume there are a lot of men in our viewership, so I'm sorry to any females, and you maybe have the same thing as what we do. But this is for the men listening.
Where this is going.
Now, when we go to the urinal, or go to the bathroom, and we go to the urinal, right? Sometimes we have a trough, or we even just have individual urinals in front of us. But like a trough, maybe that's Australian terminology, I don't know. It's like a big fucking stainless steel cunt, right? And you all go stand up there, and it's just a wall, and there's water running down, and you all stand there next to each other, flop your dicks out, and you piss, right? Now, some guys, they have a hard time doing that with another guy standing to them. No shame in that whatsoever. So you got to go into a stall. So what I'm comparing right now is being able to piss at a urinal is like playing on LAN. And if you can't do that, you're playing in your bedroom, aka a stall, right? That's my comparison for everybody at home. It's a bit vulgar. I apologize. But guys, you all know what I'm talking about, right? When we were like, you're 18, 19, you're first going out to the club, you're drunk as shit. You know you got to break that seal because you've been having too many bevies, and you got a guy next to you. Yeah, sometimes you can't get it going, right? That's kind of like LAN. So, karrigan, do we think, right, with this issue right now of these people coming up online, obviously not the same for VP, we know 4 of them were in a major final, but is there going to be real issues when they get to LAN with performing? Like, are we expecting there to be like a steep drop-off?
I don't think so, actually. I think it's the opposite way. I think the teams with the experience and people who love and have been playing on the stage for a long time find that motivation. Because I remember the first few months when the COVID came. I have a set structure I have built over 10 years, what I do at LANs. So when I bought the flight to a tournament, my brain shuts into tournament mode constantly. I'm all aware, all about CS constantly. At any given moment, my phone doesn't matter. Everything that happens around me doesn't matter. I don't need to take care of shit. I only need to take care of shit in the game. That's my job, and I'm going to do the best at that moment, right? But when you come home and your office where you normally practice, you have a chill environment, you're made chill at home, you can go to the couch, relax, you can enjoy having fun with your friends and stuff like that. At tournament, all this is out of my brain. I program my brain so that I sleep on the plane, get so much sleep I can any moment given day where I don't do anything, and then I play. So for me, it came with during the COVID that I had to transform myself into find a way that I could get the tournament vibe. That could be I unplugged my keyboard and mouse the day before I play my tournament. So when I plug in my keyboard and mouse, it's a tournament day. Because for me, I have a hard time doing the difference between a practice day and an official Pro League online game. It's for me, it's the same. It's same PC, same walls, everything. But when I go to LAN, I see people. They pay tickets to come to see me play in an arena. I'm gonna get in the fucking arena. I don't care. Like, this is my job. I need to be in the stage. I need to perform. Everybody's coming to cheering. This is what I live, and that's my passion, right? But online, it is hard for. I think that goes for every one of the teams who have been playing at the top level for a hard time. They can. I think it's impossible to get as hungry as a team like Gambit at the moment in an IEM Katowice. For me, this is not IEM Katowice I played. Sorry to say, it's not like I'm going there. I'm one game away from playing in front of 10,000 people who shout my name, you know? Yeah, they do it in Twitch chat, karrigan, right? Maybe they do it now, but it's not the same. And I think you're going to see the more experienced players, the more experienced team. They're going to up their level. And then you're going to say the all others were onliners. No, they had just played against worse team, in my opinion, overall.
Okay.
And yeah.
You know what would be a funny idea? Now that you just said like you can't do it with Twitch chats, you could technically, when you have like whatever, like echoes of people, if like enough people spam karrigan in the chat, it's just gonna echo in your headset. That would be kind of a fun experience, I think.
I mean, I tried different stuff to get me in the tournament mode. I think I'm getting there, but I cannot replicate what's happening in my brain because, like I said, the flight for me, when I fly from Copenhagen, even if I go on vacation, I sometimes get in tournament mode. If flying for me is everything else doesn't matter, like I don't know how to explain it. And I think I programmed my brain to have this kind of mode because I sleep 5 hours at tournaments. I don't sleep much at tournaments because I work my ass off. But home here, if I don't put alarm, I sleep 12 hours. I'm just relaxed, and I try to fix it, but it's just very hard for me, and I think it's easier for young players to be motivated about an online tournament than other players. So my short answer, I don't think the onliners is going to be really better LAN. I just think all other teams are going to improve the intensity of the game, the way they play. And it's not like saying everybody's unprofessional, but I just think it's a psychology thing for the players who built this up for many years with the experience.
How do you think it would be though, like in a bootcamp environment, right? So with that in mind, we know that you guys had trouble getting woxic out, and now you haven't had an opportunity just yet with FaZe. But how much different do you think that would make it? Because a big part of it sounds like it's about the ritual in the day for you. If you're going to an environment that's different and you're there with all the teammates, you can fist bump, you can be, yelling to get the boys fired up. Do you think how much % would you put on a change like that?
That helped a lot for me, at least. I could feel that every email I got, everything, nothing mattered. It's like if I'm a tournament, everything that happens around me doesn't matter. But it's hard when you're home, right? It's not like saying my fiance is not giving me the freedom. She's very understanding and she let me play. I play even more than I ever did when there was LAN. Because for me, it's a harder environment. That means I need to improve even more than when I went to tournament. 1 week, I got home, 2 days off, didn't turn on PC, mobile phone off, reset, next tournament, reset, next tournament. Right now, I cannot reset because this is my place where I work. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And when I came to bootcamp, I could feel when I got home, I could finally relax. I was in the couch. I was just 10 days. I think we had bootcamp in September last year with mouz. We didn't get the results, but just the environment and the feeling of the team, the mood, everything was just like way better. It felt like tournament again.
Nice. Okay. Well, that's a positive thing, and maybe something NAVI need to get with all their players for next time, because we're going to talk now about Astralis and NAVI. Maybe Astralis can try and get everybody into that Copenhagen office. Two teams who, obviously, I think most of us thought, with the way the bracket shaped up, probably going to meet each other in the grand final. At least I did. I thought, okay, they've made it into opposite sides of the bracket. Now they'll shrug off those group stage woes. They'll get, into that playoff mindset, and they'll blow these CIS teams out of the water because they have the experience of this stage. Obviously, that wasn't the case. Both of them going down. Are we sounding the alarm bells for either of these squads, Prof?
I mean, what shocked me the most is especially Astralis.
They don't have a map pool, mate.
That, but also like they had so many days off between the group stage and the playoffs, and that is where you expect Astralis to like be on point, to prepare, to have everything down. I couldn't see them losing. I literally could not imagine them losing that game. But well, they lost it, and it could be something tied to them not being at the boot camp and all of these things that Karrigan just talked about. Simply them not being fully in it as they usually are, and yeah, they lost. So that's definitely not a good look. And NAVI, similarly, they looked like completely out of depth in that Gambit series. So that's also shocking. You as the favorite coming in and being like completely outstratted, anti-stratted, everything, just like not being in the game against them. I think this was a train game where they literally couldn't do anything on the T side. It's shocking from favorites, right? You just don't expect them to, even if they lose, you would expect it to be like, oh, some massive overperformance from some players. So, and then it's like 16-14 overtime win, 3 maps, something like that. But it didn't really feel like that, at least for NAVI.
All right. Well, there has been conversation that Mega's stats have been tanking a bit, and he hasn't been contributing in the same way. Striker. Yep. Do we think maybe he was burdened a bit too much when he had to take over those in-game leadership roles and now struggling to get back, or is this just a bit of a downturn? Just everyone has one.
I don't know. I don't feel like that was necessarily connected, just because it happened like at different times when, like way after he changed back to in-game leadership to Glaive. So I don't think I would see much connection in there. Okay. Maybe it is just a downturn. Maybe it's just whatever. Things like this happen. Sometimes you just have a couple of off tournaments and need like a wake-up call to come back. Maybe we're just going to see him back in the next tournament or whatever. But definitely, he was definitely missed, especially in the group stage. I feel like in the Virtus Pro Series, he was actually doing pretty fine. But beforehand, for sure.
All right. Now, Finn, we've got quite the interesting stuff happening over there with NAVI, right? And these academy rosters and these junior rosters. And it feels like, they've basically just set up a creche for kids in Russia, right? It's like they've just thrown out these different names and you look after someone's kids for a little while. But without me being so flippant, it's quite seriously, there's a lot of names who are in these junior squads that have a lot of talent and are on the lookout for the future, right? I think like Munzie's one of the people that they talk about a lot. I don't know how to say this guy's name. I'm gonna butcher it. Starts with an AUNKERE. Does anyone know how to say that guy's name? I don't know.
I don't know. I guess.
I'm gonna have to learn, right? I sound like an idiot, but yeah, I'm gonna have to learn. But like, there's all these kids, and with how NAVI have been going and how Boomich looks great one game, he's obviously not going to change the in-game leader, but Flamey, sometimes you get a lot out of him, sometimes you don't. Is it time that they start flirting with a few more of these players? Because it doesn't seem like they can buy their competition, and it feels like they've maybe not hit a wall, but they were looking good. Now, what do you think about NAVI?
I'm not worried about NAVI at the moment at all. To be honest. Again, it's hard to be number one online. I don't know how many times it changed last year being number one. We have never seen that with LANs before. That people often stay stable in that number one. As long as in my opinion, you're a top 5 team and you make deep in some finals, sometimes you crash out. I think with this online era, you are fine. But the second you are a team like NAVI, you drop outside top 10. That's where I would see very sign where like, okay, how are we exactly losing? Because I feel like Navi is in the games. It feels like they're losing to themselves. Now you're losing to people who may be underrated. They also have the worst bracket I think Navi could get. I think if they played Astralis or Team Liquid, I think they're more in the game as well. I think it's a cheap thing to say, but again, they had everything to lose in that bracket each game they would have played. Also, if they played VP in the final, right? And with the pressure, I think pressure on LAN is way better than the pressure online because somehow people have I don't know what to say a different word, but they're playing with a lot of confidence. Like they have big boys pants on online. And like for me, I don't know if you've seen my games. I do a lot of aggressive things on LAN. It doesn't work online. Everyone expects it all the time. So you have to do even stranger plays. And when you come to LAN, going through the smoke is not always the best decision compared to online. And doing that decision is very different doing in LAN environment 14-14 round, going to the quarterfinal or go out, or do it in online 14-14 round where it's okay, just online unlucky. So yeah, I think that comes down to that. I don't think I'm worried about Navi for now, at least, because they won. Didn't they go far in the last global finals? Was that did they win it?
Yes.
They won against Vitality,
Yep.
right? So right there, it's a big tournament victory with a lot of good teams.
Okay, and then I'll throw. Yeah,
can I ask something? Because you asked about like mentioned pushing smokes, playing aggressive and stuff like that. What do you think about Yakindar and his form when we go to LAN? Is he the guy that's going to be dropping off?
One thing I paid attention to was his understanding of the game. When he answered that question, I was like, okay, this is exactly how all teams enter, right? He saw that Elise jumped short, did a calculated risk that was the win. Let's say when you do anti, right? You see one guy jumping short. If you see him short, your analyst or the in-game leader prepared 75% of the chance there are 3 guys B. So if in a case you see him and you kill him or he gets away, just go for the read that it's that was happening. Because teams are still doing a lot of mistakes in how they play the game that people can read it easy. And I think that's what VP did really great. That the way he answers, they're like, well, I know Elise is playing connector and he jumps short, and I know from NT that there's 2A and they're never gonna hold console because they're not gonna experience pushing the smoke. That for me is a high understanding of the game for a young guy like that. So I expect him, if he gets into a bad wall on LAN or whatever or online, he's gonna figure out how to play it. Okay, is he too aggressive? So for me, it feels like he's gonna improve when he's going down in form, compared to say, yeah, I just felt it. I went with confidence, but he answered why he did it, and that's for me the why and why he answered on that is the key thing for me to believe that Yikinda is gonna be one of the top aggressive riflers in the coming year.
Just
I
some
think
of
in
the
general he's just I think it's just in general. Sure, sometimes it looks like really crazy that he just goes into a duel, but a lot of the time it's just like smart aggression. You know, he actually knows when to push, when to stay back, and stuff like that. He just knows how to take space for himself without any support, and I feel like he's super unique in that, like especially this year.
I got one here, Finn. I want to throw away before we talk about these 3 CIS teams. Just if you're looking at the Astralis situation, obviously you have an intimate understanding of those guys from years ago, but just your outlook on them. Do you think they'll be scrambling to get Esatag's number back anytime soon, or do you think they're going to continue forward with what they're looking at right now?
I think it's so tough, right? If I was Astralis, you have so many majors, you win all the big tournaments on LAN. I mean, it's just about survival at this moment for me. If I would, in my perspective of how I look at Astralis, right? They just have to survive this online era. They probably have told themselves that they cannot expect to be number 1. They want to be it, but it's tough to be it in this situation, right? Because all what Astralis stands for is good preparation as a team, teamwork, going to tournament, having good structure, all these things. And I think maybe they have a hard time doing that with COVID-19, right? Denmark is pretty much locked down for 2 months now. Basically, everything is closed, right? They start to open it now. them not being able to go out eat restaurants as teammates if they're boot camping or whatsoever, all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I'm think they're not too scared if they're a top 5 team in the world. They want to be the best, but top 5 should be, in my opinion, fine for them until they reach land where they can use all the experience, all the preparation they do from their past, right?
Okay. All right. Let's net up these CIS teams. So Spirit, Gambit, VP. Those are the 3 names I want to work with here. Now, obviously, they've come into this tournament. We've all known that they've all been on the rise at some point. VP last year, Gambit the same through the tier 2. Spirit with the degs to change put a lot of eyes on them. All 3 of those teams had made a roster change within the last, I think it was like 12 months. Hobbit in the middle of last year, Dexter this year, and obviously Yakinda was pretty in the middle of last year as well for VP. Instead of their team ranks, let's just do it this way. Prof, which one of these 3 do you think will be the highest ranked in the next 3 to 6 months? And I don't want you to look at HLTV rankings about, well, VP is the highest now. What I mean is, which of these 3 do you think will be sitting there going, they're the better team out of those 3 in the next 3 to 6?
But why can't we include NAVI there?
We can.
Maybe NAVI isn't even number 1. Who knows?
We can, but I think we're vibing with what Finn's saying a little bit in the sense that we expect the teams like NAVI and Astralis to bounce back when we get to lands, if we ever get there. So yeah,
it's a pretty tough one. I still wouldn't. I don't think Gambit is my favorite for the number 1. I think it's between VP and Spirit still for me. Even though Gambit just won this, I feel like it's been like too easy in a way for them. And at the same time, I saw like Spirit and VP do more consistently in terms of like winning tournaments, even though they were smaller tournaments, but they did it for like 2-3 months. So it would be for me between the 2, even though I have no actual idea how things are going to pan. Like for me, the way VP lost his grand final was pretty worrying. Some of the players like Kicker had an awful grand final, like almost no impact anywhere. So if that's going to be happening, like he is still a pretty important player for the lineup. If he's going to be like having those kinds of matches in the most important parts of the tournament, that's not going to be good for them. Definitely. Like Spirit is overall like pretty rounded, so maybe that's their edge to be like the second best CIS team.
And they just added Dexter, right? It hasn't been very long at all. Striker, what do you got on this? Who do you think is going to be standing out?
I actually do think it's going to be Gambits.
Okay.
I feel like just because it's kind of like the safest choice in terms of, because they just play super solid. I feel like they don't rely as much on the individuals as the other teams. Shiro, of course, like they're going to rely on Shiro, but I feel like Shiro's always going to have his impact, judging by how he plays, just because he's always, very solid. He doesn't take like unnecessary risks. He's quite smart with the way he aggresses. While, VP, of course, Yakinda is still smart, but he's still very volatile. Like he still has rounds where he just like dies first and doesn't do anything because he's alone and making space for himself, and the rest of the team kind of has to salvage the situation. And so I feel like in Spirit, I think we just haven't seen enough for me to be super confident about them at this point. Yes, they have the individuals for sure.
I think, right?
Mir and Dexter, like if they combine together, like they're super crazy. And even Magic's obviously like as the third star of that team, they can definitely have like super high peaks. But in terms of consistency, like who's going to be consistently the better team out of these 3, it's going to be Gambit, I think.
Okay. I think, Finn, are you with that? You think the Gambit are the ones who are going to play the most consistent Counter-Strike going forward, or do you think these other teams have better constellations of players or maybe better understanding of the game?
I think VP with experience has been in major final as well, having some of the core, and I think Yakinda James is a really, really good, powerful combo in the way they play, very aggressive and very passive. So I think they over time would stay longer than Gambit would. I would say Gambit would go above Spirit in that way, even though Spirit has, Spirit has shown great results, but not insane results yet. I feel like they have showed the potential of what they can do, win one game against a favorite and lose the next, right? What Gambit did was to keep winning at every moment. Okay. So that shows me that Gambit has higher ceiling than Spirit, in my opinion, for what I've seen the last few months. So that's where I would put VP, Gambit, and Spirit.
All right, and there's one thing I want to ask you, because when I sit there and I watch and I look at the play style of these teams, it's all quite similar in the sense that they give on their T sides a lot of room to individuals to go for plays simultaneously. So, like, what I'm talking about, would overpasser be an easy example? They establish connected control. They deal with the door being blown off. They clear it all out. They've got playground. They've got party. They put a little bit of pressure long. Some cunts fighting toilets while some guys walking through monster, and then everybody else is automatically ready to react based off of that, right? And then if they get a kill or they don't get a kill, they take space, or what? They just hit pause, right? They hit pause. Okay, hold up, Karrigan. I've just been told by Lucas that you need to be right back.
Yes.
You want to go be right back, and we'll finish this question when you get back, because it's going to be a long answer question, I assume. So you be right back.
All right.
We'll wait here for you. Apologies, we're running a little bit over.
Thank you.
We'll get the liquid one out of the way, and then we'll ask this one about CS when Karrigan comes back. He shouldn't be too long. Thank you, Lucas, for that. That was easy to deal with. We'll come back to that. Make sure I don't forget that thought. It might be a good one. All right, Liquid in their streaky form, right? They were good at Blast. Then here,
it's literally every week that they're like flipping form. Like,
yeah,
they started when they first came. First event was kind of good. Then second, that was the IEM Global Challenge, right? Or was it? Or it was the Blast? Blast Global Finals.
Yeah.
And then after that, the second event, they kind of shit the bed. Then the third event was kind of like the third event was the group stage of Katowice, which they did well. And then for the playoffs, they just lost instantly. So it's literally every week that it's just flip form, and that sucks. And I hate that because it means nothing. Literally,
it might be too early. Do we think it's too early? But also Liquid going back to North America soon, so maybe it's too late. Like, we learned almost nothing from this trip, right? We learned that they have potential, but we already knew they have potential. We just don't know if it's going to be consistent. Kind of feels like they're going to be set back a little while, huh?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's so hard to get anything out of this. Also because the in-game leadership change, and also like Vaughn doesn't actually in-game lead everywhere because of what is it, Nuke?
Yeah, so far, yeah.
And so like there are like a lot of changes that the team had to go through in a relatively short amount of time. So I guess it is too early for to just judge them in any reasonable way.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna have to see. And yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna have to see.
Dewey had a real rough time in that game, a very, very rough time in that game. So hopefully we get to see more. We'll find out. Let's pivot back to that question, Finn. Do you remember where I was leaving that one, or do you want me to kind of summarize it again quickly?
Summarize it one more time.
Okay, so the play style of those CIS teams, taking a lot of space, hitting pause, never looking flustered, playing the clock down very late, always going for these late maneuvers and being extremely lurky across the map and giving each other a lot of space. Like, that style of Counter-Strike, that's what I'm taking away from it. They're not doing things in the same way we'd expect. Like, they're not grouping up late and all just trying to trade into a site. They're trying to win fights on both sides. Like, how do you view their styles?
Yeah, I mean, I take some of it as inspiration, right? Because they have very specific styles, which leave a guy who's very aggressive to kind of decide where the round ends. Like, if you have this group of 3 guys, the traditional CS is the 3 guys takes map control, right? Then you have 1-1, and then the guys react. If they're fighting the group, the lurks are going, let's say Mirage, you got 3 guys mid, ST, you get 3 guys CTs, they fight each other, the lurks go out, try to get the kill on BNA, and you try to move around and you get the site, right? You get space from that scenario. But what I feel like what they do is having the one player is playing very aggressive and the group is in behind reacting CS, right? And for me, that's kind of a Joker tactic where you put some pressure, and the CTs have to get the info before they know exactly what's behind that one guy, right? But it also creates, if the guys in the 1-1 group that's playing aggressive don't get the openings and people start to know their tendencies, the group behind is useless. They cannot react in time, If you get in the fight on overpass, you're in connector, you fight B and you fight A, and you win one duel but lose one duel, right? And people know what's happening, then they know they have to block the side where you lost the kill, and then don't all-rotate because the group can still go the opposite way. So it's very untraditional CS where you see the other way around. And I think that's based off James, the way he's playing with AWP, because he is going into position and he sits there for 1 minute. And they want you to rotate into his crosshair. But if you know those two, I played many times on those two, if you know that they're putting pressure on A, don't rotate from B. Even if you lose the kill, you have to not rotate B. If you want, you have to smoke off mid. Because the whole tactic is based on James getting that kill. And that means with Yekindar, they got a really good entry frag, and now that he find those openings, forces rotation into Jame, and the round is over. 5-on-3 before you know it. So it's a very hard style to counter, but you have to be on point and don't all-rotate against these guys, because that's the only way you lose the game against them.
Okay.
You have to be really secure in your retakes. And to be honest, I'm trying to find inspiration in other teams in the retakes, and there's not many good teams who have good set certain rules on how to retake different sites. And that means I think they found a weakness as many people's playbook, that they have to work on retakes and not all rotate, instead of always do the gamble, you know, and CT does too, lose a frag long, gamble stack B, you know, I hope they come B. But if you rotate by mid, Jame will catch you off guard if you want to stack A.
That's perfect. There was an example in the Liquid game where they did exactly that. Like then they were even a number disadvantaged situation. I'm pretty sure they just parked Jame up mid doors, Xbox, watching the cross. 3 guys walk out short, entry onto A, and the B guys can't rotate. Like, yeah. Okay.
And often Jame has the bump. That means even he's sitting there low, he gets the kill. He just goes B alone because he knows the B is clear. You know. So yeah, you have to really study them before you can actually beat their style, because it's very unique. And if it's gonna be consistently good, I mean, I felt Avangard got figured out. We had like Avangard anti-strats back then, and how the way they played, because we were in mousesports, we were coming up with Avangard. If you guys remember, that's where they peaked. We met them in the DreamHack Open tournaments. So I had to figure out to counter that style, because it's very different. And that was not all rotate. Be sure if we have to clear the lurks, because they're very passive lurks. They have the aggressive players who takes the attention. So yeah, it's very different compared to play a top Tier 1 team.
Okay. All right. Be interesting to see how they develop over the next couple of months. Now, it is 10:03. Do you have time for a couple of viewer questions, Finn?
Yeah, why not?
All right.
There are so many questions I saw.
Let's lock that in. All right. Well, don't worry about the bumper, Lucas. We'll just get stuck in here. Prof, have you been able to siphon through and get us any good ones?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. There was actually one question. I don't remember. I saw it somewhere. I don't know how it goes exactly, but it was something about the Danish scene, saying something along the lines of, if you knew that there were going to be a lot of Danish free agents, would you maybe go into that direction instead of rejoining FaZe? So like how I want to like maybe switch the question a bit is, if Heroic was an available team, or if you had like boobski and some other players available, would you go for that maybe instead of going international?
I think that's a very tough scenario. I was in the same position when I got benched in FaZe. I had some Danish offers that could be interesting. But my philosophy was that if you create a Danish team and you actually become better than Astralis, if you do that for a few months, who will not say yes to Astralis of all my 4 players at any given moment? Even if we are number 1 for 6 months, by joining Astralis, you get everything you want. That's your biggest dream if you're a Danish player, right? So by default, I would always create a team that would never be the best team in the world, because if we became that, somebody could pick the players. By building an international team, I believe I have so much experience in communication and how to work around cultures of different players that I believe I'm a key opponent to become the best international team in the world. Because I have experience, I was one of the first guys as an in-game leader who made it work with FaZe, because after that, people started doing international teams. That wasn't really a thing when we started doing it in FaZe, right? So I believe I can always be on the best international team. And then you have disadvantage compared to other teams, obviously, but I'm not scared that if we become number 1 team in the world in FaZe, that Astralis is going to pick one of my players. Okay. Or NAVI, for that sense.
I had a question which relates to this one right here that Prof just asked. Fallen now, with where he is in his career, and we didn't think he was going to be in-game leading Liquid, but he's a natural leader, and now he's in-game leading Liquid. Do you think he's going to be similar to you in the rest of his career now, like in-game leading international teams would be his best bet as he, like, I'm kind of looking at in-game leaders off of the blueprint that you have, and then Fallen and all these other people that could fall into it. It's kind of like you guys can be like the quarterbacks, right? In the sense that even if you do get a little bit older and maybe mechanically you're not as on point as, you know, some of these crazy young kids, you're still the one making everything work. Like, do you think that's the direction Fallen will probably end up going?
Oh, it's tough to answer, right? Because it was very strange for me. Fallen joins without being the in-game leader. There was a warning sign for me that either it was decision made by him that he wanted to get used to how Lik could play NACS communication English, even though he played in NA with some NA players, right? So that was a worrying sign for me that he would just join like that. But now when he's becoming that, I think he will realize after also this thing with the Miba guys that it's not as easy as he wants it to be. I think AlexyB also experienced that the communication and the thinking you do as an in-game leader is never going to be 100% clear, but you have to create a special language within the team. I've been doing that for the last 3 years, implementing small words that I can say without explaining anything. And I don't want to give it up because something I'm working on myself within my team, that these words make it easier for me to focus on my game instead of explaining stuff, you know? So communication is the key thing you need to work on. It's never going to be the best thing, but you need a theory of how you can improve that during these hectic moments. Because when it gets hectic, your brain automatically thinks in Danish, but what I always obviously do, sometimes I speak English with my fiance, even though she's Danish. You know, like I've been used to this for so many years now that I'm thinking in the game in English, and I think that is a key advantage for me that Fallen has to build up during his time. And I think AlexyB also said it on the HLTV Confirmed that he's still having issues sometimes because when he's playing Finnish friends, it's very natural everything for him. But it will come with time, but it just takes time. You cannot speed it up the process besides doing shortcuts in communication and bring everybody on board to use those words.
I like this. This is good. Big smile on my face with that one. Striker, he's frowning, of course. Pimp, can't believe his eyes.
Look, I took this well, man. I see this as a positive side for me, not for you.
I've got 3 years left, man. Hopefully it takes longer than that. Let's keep riding this. Prof, what do we got question-wise? Anything else?
There's a question about, we touched on it just briefly, about the coaching situation. From what we know, RobbaN is coming back to be the coach of FaZe when his ASIC ban goes like when it's over. Is that the plan, or is he like a temporary solution? Why'd you decide to bring him back to coaching?
Yeah, apparently we have a good PR manager in FaZe in coldzera just telling everything what's happening, right? So yeah, I mean, for me, it was the situation with me and RobbaN back then was that he was under having a lot of pressure in his private life about it, everything, right? And he had to go a little out from the coaching in the worst period of time, right? And I remember clearly the day he had to tell me during the tournament in Lisbon. I could see during those 3 days that there was something wrong with him. He had to tell me I'm benched and stuff like that. And since then, we have always been good friends. We're always talking, and I always heard him. He's writing to me, "Oh, bro, I miss coaching," you know, stuff like that. And there was key things that me and him had to agree on how we need to work, because what me and RobbaN has is very special relationship. We understand each other on the private level, but we also understand the way we call. He would always say, "Bro, you're calling exactly how I want it to be in 1.6. So here comes some things that by having that coach, we don't get a lot of vision mix, right? But we get a strong vision on how we need to get the players to get better. By having coldzera on the team, we get that another voice that I needed to kind of telling me a good way how he thinks we should improve as a team. So I get somebody who will give me a lot of confidence, who will listen to me, will do exactly what I want him to do, and also realize that in mousesports, when I got rejoined, that I had to turn him into a different coach that he was used to. So I kind of control the coach what I exactly need him to do, instead of having the coach as a guy that tried to move me around to improve, right? Because every coach I played with probably says to himself, I don't need to coach karrigan in the way he sees the games, stuff like that. But they just need to be connected on the same level to get the players on board, that we're all on the same page, right? So for me, that's the job I'm using the coach for, that RobbaN always makes sure everybody's happy, asking the people, and then he comes with the pistol rounds and whatever, the anti-strat, and also correct the mistakes of the players, right? That's one of the key components. I don't want to correct players' mistakes unless I see a huge thing. I want to be on the same level as the players, as long as the coach is like the guy having the overview. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's probably opposite of how most people see it at the moment with the coaching roles, right? Is that especially if you look at like Threat's team, NIP, for example, obviously Zonic over there at Astralis, I'm sure it's more tightly knit with Glaive and Zonic than what I give it credit for. But the way that it's presented, same with xtaz over there at Vitality, it's like the coach has the keys to the car now. It seems like you and RobbaN share the minivan, right? Like,
yeah, it's like you order an Uber. You know, we are the same Uber basically. You know? We can just get the car whenever we want to. So I think that was key thing to me, that I needed that relationship with a guy. I don't need to learn how I think about the game, but he understands and he trusts me that I can build a playbook, and he will come in with things he see, but he will give me the keys to the playbook of the whole team. And that's the player, that's the in-game leader I am. I want fully freedom to do crazy stuff, come up with crazy ideas, pushing stupid through smokes, as long as it's calculated risk. Yeah, so I think that's why it was very natural for me to work with RobbaN, and also hearing him, talking with him, I knew he had huge motivation, because he felt we didn't finish the job me and him started. We did baby steps all the time, but we didn't get over the finish line. And I think that for him also, people probably said RobbaN wasn't an important coach for the team, but he was. And I think people are saying he wasn't a good enough coach. So he's coming back also. He wants to prove that he is important and vital to a team.
Okay, that sounds like a good way to potentially end things here. Prof, got anything else?
No, I think this is it.
All right,
I have one maybe to close it out. It's definitely not a serious one. Did the nerdy computer kid meme transition over to FaZe already?
What do you mean? The one
that you're the first one that got a girlfriend and shit.
How did it transform? What do you mean?
I mean, wasn't it a thing in mousesports that people were just making fun of you all the time because of it?
Oh, in the team?
Oh, yeah. Not yet. They're making fun of other stuff all the time. So maybe it will come. Maybe they haven't heard it, even though I think the whole CSGO world have heard it.
They're a bit older, right? They're not as memey as like ropz and those kind of.
Broky is pretty memey and.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about how young they are. Yeah, fuck. Okay, never mind. I'm just thinking how. Yeah, just one, and this is a bit of a plug here. I'm going to spam this in chat for everybody right now. How's the YouTube channel going with all the because you were kicking that off just when we had you on last time?
I mean, right now I'm not gonna focus on streaming for a month. I have a lot of stuff on my plate with FaZe, with playbook and watching so many demos, right? So for now it's on pause until we're gonna relaunch season 2. Okay. There's some improvements to that, but I actually enjoy it, and I feel like every comment I had on upvotes and stuff like that has been really good. People sending their demos, I rewatched them, I reviewed them, put it up on my YouTube later, and many people they haven't seen it before now. They wish they would have seen it for a month ago, right? So for now, I feel like it's going quietly the right direction. I don't want it to be my focus point. It's something I just want to give back to the fans, right? And I think I've been posting like 20 demos already or something like that. A lot of videos. So we're trying to improve all the time on it. But for now, it's like a small pause on it. To make sure I'm ready for FaZe.
Nice. All right. Well, that's the end of the episode. So thank you, Karrigan, for joining us. Like, open the floor to you now if you want to say anything to the fans, or if you want to. We kind of just plugged your channel, so if you guys want to follow, we put it in the chat for YouTube and for Twitch. Is there anything you want to say?
Nothing besides I hope everyone is staying safe, and hopefully we can get some tournaments in soon. And thank you for you guys for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to get to talk too much, so you drink 1 liter of water while you're doing the show. So yeah, I mean, you guys are doing a great job, and make sure to follow HLTV Confirmed. It's always great content.
Sweet. All right. Well, that is going to be the end of the show right there. Thank you again to Karrigan. Great guest to have on. Great insights as usual. This has been episode 29. We're going to be back, I believe, on Sunday. That's kind of a tempered one. That's before Pro League starts. We'll talk about Pro League, all the groups, all the action there, working on a guest as well. Hopefully we have that one locked on in. And yeah, that's the end of the episode. So check it out, anchor.fm/HLTV, twitch.tv/HLTV.org. That's where we are now, and the YouTube channel. See you guys later.